Hey, welcome everybody to a special edition of the Bret Boone podcast. We're doing a live watch party during game two of the American League Championship Series. Garrett Coles delivers the first pitch against the Cleveland Guardians. I'm Rich Herrera from the Infinity Sports Network. That, of course, is MLB All-Star Bret Boone. Bret, we're going to hang out with the fans tonight and watch the game.
You got it. It is something different, something new, but I'm looking forward to it. We're on our way.
So we're
on our way, Rich.
We're going to react right along with the fans as we're watching the game. So let me get your thoughts as we get going here. It's game two. Yankees win yesterday. Don't beat the cover off the ball. A couple solo shots, but hey, they're up 1-0 in this series.
Well, I think Cleveland kind of beat themselves yesterday. A couple pass balls, and next thing you know, the game gets away from the 7-3 final. Tonight's it doesn't get any easier for Cleveland. They got Garrett Cole coming off a great outing. His last outing, pitched 7 innings, won that game. Previous start to that, Garrett was kind of rusty. They still won that ball game in game one of the previous series Yankees had. But this will be a test for Cleveland tonight. I think you don't want to go down two to the Yankees in this best of 7. So they've got their back against the wall, but they've had it against the wall before. We talked about the last series with Detroit. Where they were facing Kluber, or I'm sorry, not Kluber. Give me the star for Cleveland. Who's the lefty?
Well, as they go through, I'm sorry, there's one away here in the first inning, but I know what you're talking about. When they're going through, you've got the Yankees, you've got the Cleveland Guardians, and as you get into game two, who's the pressure on today?
Absolutely, Cleveland. You go down 2-0 in a best of 7 against the Yankees. That are well rested. That doesn't look good for Cleveland. It's kind of, for me, it's kind of a must. It's not a obviously must win, but it's as must win as it could be for Cleveland.
All right. So again, this is a beta test. This isn't exactly us ripping off the Manning cast, Bret. I've done a couple of these before when I worked down in San Diego when we would do Facebook live show. But as we were kind of kicking around ways that we could expand the podcast, and hey, why not watch the game? Because you and I do this all the time anyway. We'll text back and forth, call each other in between pitches and innings to watch the ball game. So I figured, why not do it on YouTube and share it with the fans who want to jump in and talk with us?
Yeah, it like I said, it's something new for me too. Being on it live during a game, going along with the game. It should be an interesting maiden voyage, Rich.
Yeah, exactly. Trying something new. So this is kind of intended for a second screen for you. If you're watching the game on TVS, obviously, you'll hear Brian Anderson and Ron Darling on the call, and I think Frenchie's in the booth with them. This is a real nice companion. So if you use this on the second screen on your phone or your iPad, you have us right next, you can hear those guys, and then you'll hear our comments as well. So let me ask you this, Bret. Let me start with this. Just the atmosphere, Yankee Stadium. It's a little cold. People are wearing turtlenecks and long sleeves. Your brother actually put on a jacket for the game today. What's it like playing at Yankee Stadium this point of the year?
Well, it kind of brings back memories. Yankee Stadium, regular day game in the middle of July, not that big a deal. You turn when the lights come on and you get that brisk wind whipping through Yankee Stadium. It reminds me a lot of what it's like postseason in the Bronx. These guys are feeling that right now. Like I said, it brings me back to years and years ago. I've had my heart broken a few times at Yankee Stadium, but there's nothing like it. When it gets cool this time of the year, October, you can close your eyes and you know where you're at.
Are there really ghosts at Yankee Stadium? Do you feel like you're playing Garrett Cole, or are you playing everybody?
All I know is, and Derek Jeter's kind of famous for saying the ghosts will appear at some point. But all I know is a few times I've seen a ball go over my head. I've signaled to the outfielder as a pop-up. And the next thing I know, it lands 10 rows deep in the seats. And it's not my team. It's a Yankee. So if that's the ghost helping out, I've seen a few of them.
All right. So this is a live beta test, if you will, fans. So we're going to be here. We're going to watch the game. We'll have a couple of surprise guests pop in, including one of Bret's former teammates. If you want to comment, we have the live chat going. So we're just going to hang out and watch baseball with you. So it's game two, the Yankees and the Cleveland Indians, and it looks like the Indians will go 3 up, 3 down in the top of the first, so the Yankees will come up. Talk to me about the strength of the New York Yankees, Bret, because as we watch the season go on, they got off to just the phenomenal start. Crazy how good they were to begin the year. Then, like everything else, they kind of settled down a little bit. And boy, you would have thought they were the Chicago White Sox at a couple points during the season, the way people just gave up on them and said, that's it, they're done. Baltimore is gonna run away with this. What happened to the New York Yankees? And lo and behold, here we are. Final four, Yankees are right there.
Well, I mean, when you're in New York, you're going to always have that bigger than life scrutiny on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis on how your team's doing. That's just how it is. That's how the media is in New York. But I've watched this team all year. It's been the the Baltimore Orioles and the Yankees right up there with the best record in baseball. Over 162 games. It's going to ebb and flow. Unless you have one of those miraculous, unbelievable 105 win seasons. Dodgers have had a few of those recently. You're usually going to have a hiccup, and you're going to have some tough sledding. The great teams get through that, come out on the other side. The Yankees did that, won the division going away. So the key to this Yankee team, though, they're pretty healthy. Giancarlo Stanton's remained healthy. Rizzo came back after missing the first series. He's back in the lineup. I think, if anything, he really shores up that infield defense. It's good to have Rizzo back. Stanton's been a big presence so far in the postseason, leading the way. And the guy that's been silent is probably going to be the MVP here in a couple of weeks, and that's Aaron Judge. I think for the Yankees to not only go to the World Series, but have a chance to win the World Series this year, at some point, Aaron Judge is going to have to be the Aaron Judge we're used to seeing.
Okay, so how much does Aaron Judge need to press right now?
Well, I think, like all of us, we put in a certain amount of pressure on us. Even as a player as great as an Aaron Judge, he seems to have all the confidence in the world. He's just coming off hitting 50 some homers, hit 320, was up there. He was in contention for the Triple Crown all year. He's, for me right now, the best offensive player in baseball. But it just goes to show you, baseball is so fickle, and even the best of the best, you could be rattled. Your confidence can be rattled right now. Believe me, Aaron Judge, he famously said in April this year, I'm still Aaron Judge. And he showed up and hit 50, 54, 55 homers or whatever he did. But the postseason, not only this postseason, but his postseason as a whole, he's approaching 200 at bats now, hitting around 200. Very not Aaron Judge likes to. Yes, he's feeling the pressure. He knows he's the captain. He knows it's the Bronx. He knows it's October. So even Aaron Judge, yeah, I see him pressing a little bit.
Okay, so the Yankees will send up Torres, Soto, and Judge. So we'll look to see whether they get things going against the young kid throwing for the Cleveland Indians. So tell me right now, if you're a veteran team like the New York Yankees, you're going against the de facto ace of the Cleveland Indians. What's your approach as you go into this first inning?
We want to put them away. Cleveland's strength, and the strength they have over all the other teams in this postseason, this tournament we're calling it now, is their bullpen. If you can get, if Bibee can get the ball to that bullpen in the fifth inning, tied or with a lead, the advantage automatically goes to the Cleveland Indians. So I think that's the goal tonight. It's a tough task being with the 2023 Cy Young Award winner Cole on the mound, but that's what they've got to do if they want to win this game.
So do you want to get him? Do you want to press right now? Do you want to make sure he throws strikes? What do you want to do?
Well, no, you're just going up to your baseball player. You're a hitter. You've been doing this for years and years. You just finished a 162 game schedule. Just because it's the postseason doesn't mean we throw everything out the window. We still got to play the game.
Okay. So again, the Yankees up in the bottom of the first inning, and Torres is going to hit a double down the left field line. So right away, you put some pressure on the young kid from Cleveland. And now I got runners in scoring position. So I got Soto, Judge, and Wells coming up. So this is where the Yankees want to feast, right?
I'll tell you what, Torres has been a breath of fresh air for that Yankee team. Had a real substandard year for him. Aaron put him in the leadoff hole, and he took off. And the last month of the season was his best month, and he's kept it going into the postseason.
Why is that? Because he moved into the leadoff hole that he gets locked in.
Yeah, there is no rhyme or reason. In my career, when I was a young kid, I hit seventh. I moved around to fifth. My Seattle Mariner years, I mostly hit third and fourth. I ended up being most comfortable in the three hole. But there's no rhyme or reason to it, Rich. Sometimes some guys like being first, second in the lineup. Some guys like being down in the lineup. Just a matter of a comfort zone. And he just kind of found a niche in that leadoff hole, got hot, and took it from there.
Okay, and as people are jumping on with this on YouTube, this is a beta test of the Bret Boone Podcast Live postseason edition. We're doing some second string content. So again, if you're watching the game on TBS, great. You can follow along with us, and Bret will react in real time. We also have one of his teammates going to join us a little bit later. It's a surprise guest throughout the ball game today, but it's the bottom of the first inning. Yankees have a runner in scoring position with Soto up at the plate and Judge sitting there on deck. So if you're Judge, what are you thinking right now? I've got a runner in a scoring position. We've got the offense going early. As you're sitting there waiting for your at bat, what are you thinking about? How are you approaching this?
Judge right now, he's going through his checkpoints, whatever they may be for him. He's thinking, okay, he's going through all the scenarios that could happen. What if I come up in this situation, that situation? And right now, okay, so right now, base hit to right field. Now we got first and third. Aaron knows no matter what the situation, he's still Aaron Judge. He's going to be pitched very delicately. So right now he's just thinking, I got to get a good pitch to hit. My job right here, I need to get that runner in for third. I got to get a point on the board and get the momentum in our favor. So early in the count, you're ahead in the count. You're going to be a little more aggressive. You know, you're going to get a good pitch to hit and try to put a good swing on it. As the count wears on, you that the situation dictates what you're thinking. As the count moves on, if you get down to the count 0-2, hey, maybe a ground ball to short gets it done right here. But right now, early in the count, he's looking to get a good pitch to hit, put a good swing on.
What about Bybee right now? He's given up, faced two hitters, given up 2 hits.
Yeah, he's he's behind the 8 ball right now. He starts off with a nice strike right there. We'll see how this at bat goes on. But yeah, Judge's job, your job in this particular situation, no matter what you do, get that runner in for third.
How much do you want to make sure that you keep the pressure on him as well by having a good at bat? Don't let him off the hook, right?
Oh my goodness. Wow.
An error to the shortstop. Torres scores Soto to second. Aaron Judge is going to reach on the error. So the pop-up shortstop has the ball coming to him, and then it just bounced off his glove. React. What happened?
That cannot happen. That's another thing in October in Yankee Stadium. The wind can be a factor, but these are big. This is a big league shortstop, the best defender on the field. For that to happen this early, this puts him in a hole. I think about last night. They had 2 situations with a runner on third, 2 pass balls. You gave them 2 free runs. Now the game's out of hand. Now it's 7-3. If you don't let those pass balls go by, it's 4-3. It's a completely different ball game, completely different feeling. Right there, that just can't happen. Aaron Judge just gave you an easy out, moving on to Wells, and it turns into instead of a first and third, 1 out, and you're facing Wells. Now you've got 1 run in first and second, and you're facing Wells.
And Wells has struggled so far.
Yeah,
both Judge and Wells have struggled so far. So right now they've got the kid on the ropes, and Wells you don't want him to help him out at all, right?
I think if Stephen Vogt could say what's the worst case scenario, how we could start this ball game, it was just realized.
Oh, 100%, 100%. Because now the crowd's going to be into it. They smell blood. I don't care how good you are right now. Your adrenaline's pumping, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Once you get into that postseason, you have a few moments where you'll get those butterflies. Even the most seasoned guys, once that postseason, but usually after the first pitch, it's baseball. It's baseball. You get over those butterflies. But right now, they just put a lot of pressure on themselves.
All right. So Wells is going to strike out swinging. So there's 1 away. You got runners at first and second, and now Stanton comes up, who had a big shot yesterday. So again, if you're the Cleveland Indians, try to stop the hemorrhaging, and if you're the Yankees, you want to keep this conga line going, Bret.
Well, Stanton's the hottest guy in the lineup for the Yankees right now. He's hit a couple home runs, but he's also very vulnerable to strikeout. That's what Bobby's going to try to get right here. Here's what I want to say, and put yourself in the hitter's position. Stanton's he's a guy that sits on pitches, so you never know what he's looking for. But right now, he might be sitting for one. He's either sitting hard or he's sitting soft. Uh, so Bobby's got to be careful, and some pitchers are good enough. They can read your body language and know what you're sitting on. It's going to be interesting what Stanton's looking for in this situation.
So what about the just the rest of the momentum, I guess, is what I'm talking about, Bret.
Well, this at bat will dictate it. If they can get out of here with minimal damage, one run, that's a big win for Cleveland and Bibee.
How hard is that just to stop it and just give up the one?
Well, I mean, that's what your ace of the staff is. You got your two aces going tonight. You got Bibee for Cleveland, and you got Garrett Cole. That's what aces do. They're in those big situations, those big games for a reason. You expect with your ace out there, that usually means a W for you guys. So that's what he's thinking right now. I got to cut down on the damage. Do a little damage control right here.
Do a little bit of damage control right here. So again,
here's the situation that Stanton really thrives in. He's ahead in the count 2-1. He'll sit on a breaking ball right now. So Bibee's got to be really careful hanging a breaking ball right now, because Stanton's really good off-speed hitter, especially when he's looking for it.
All right, so Stanton's going to fly out into foul territory. So Bibee, trying to wiggle out of this thing right now, was really up on the ropes, got strikeout from Wells, and got the error. And then he gets Stanton to fly out into foul territory. So he's 1 out away, Bret, from getting out of this thing with just one run.
And these guys have been here before, Cleveland. I mean, they've had a rough inning. They all have. You don't want to do it in the postseason when you're down 1 to the Yankees. But we've all been in this situation before. The name I was struggling for earlier was Scooble.
Oh, Scooble. Okay.
Right. This Cleveland Indian team had their back to the wall. They were down 2-1 to Detroit.
Right.
They came back in game 4, won, and then they had to face Scooble game 5. Well, they hit the big home run. Lane hit the big home run, and all of a sudden you beat the best pitcher, in my opinion, in the postseason right now in Scooble, and you send them packing on to the next round to face the Yankees. So it's not that they haven't had their back to the wall before. This Cleveland team's a real resilient team, a real good team. They led that division all year, didn't relinquish it, and this is a good Cleveland ball club.
So with Jazz Chisholm up right now, what do you want to see out of him?
Well, Chisholm, once again, you're playing the game. This hasn't changed just because it's game 2. Jazz Chisholm, he's got a situation here. He's got runners in scoring position. He's trying to get a good pitch, get a base hit. That's what we're all trying to do. Let me take that away. Not get a base hit. We're trying to get a good pitch and put a good swing on it. What happens, happens. Only guy I know that could aim where it was going was Tony Gwynn.
And that's why he's Tony Gwynn, right?
Tony Gwynn used to tell me, I got to play with him for 1 year in 2000, and finally, when I was a part of that Padres roster, I said, Tony, in a serious moment, I said, listen, now don't kid with me now. I said, it seems like I couldn't defend you. If I shaded you up the middle, you'd pull one in the hole. If I shaded you in the hole, you'd hit one up the middle. I said, did you actually look to see where I was playing you? And he looked at me, deadpanned me, and said, absolutely, Bret. And I believed him.
And he really could just kind of cue it here, cue it there, and the rest of you were just kind of standing there like, what just happened? Well,
there are certain guys, that you play in your career, and there's just nobody else like him. As far as a pure hitter goes, Tony Gwynn's the best hitter I ever saw, ever played with or played against. Now, we all know Barry Bonds is the greatest overall hitter I've ever seen. I think the game's ever seen. But as far as if everything's on the line and I got to put one man up there to get a base hit, I'm taking Tony Gwynn.
All right, so Bibee's 1 out away from getting out of this jam, and Chisholm trying his best to keep this thing going. How much of a pickup would it be for Cleveland just to get out with just the one run? I mean, that's got to be a big pick-me-up if they're able to get out of this.
It's damage control, and that's Bibee's job, being the ace of that staff.
So again, this is
thing you got to look at here
yeah.
also is, Cleveland, they've got the big boys rested because yesterday they didn't use any of their big relief guys. So they're rested. Uh, but you're looking to get 5 or 6 innings out of your ace. He's already up to 26 pitches in the first inning. That's a problem, especially in the day and age where we really pay close attention to pitch counts.
All right, so they're going to get Chisholm. He strikes out on a foul tip. So for Bybee, you got to feel pretty good about yourself. You get into the jam early. The first 2 runners get base hits. Then you get a pop-up that should have been the first out. It's an error, and you're able to get out with just the 1 run, Bret.
Absolutely, because you just went from utter destruction and everybody kind of going, what's going to happen next? Till he gets them out of it with 1 run. That can be a reverse thing for a team. That could be a confidence builder right there. That could have been a 3-4 run inning. All of a sudden, he keeps it to 1 run. That could be a pick-me-up from an offensive standpoint. Those guys coming in, because it was doom and gloom. Oh, what's going to happen next? You only give up 1 run. Big win for Bybee and the Indians right there, only being down 1.
All right, so give me the 2 dugouts. What's going on in the 2 dugouts right now? So if you're the Cleveland Indians, I have a shortstop that could have been a costly error. He's not going to look like a goat. Bybee was on the ropes. He gets out of, like you said, Stephen Vogt. If you would have asked him, what's the worst case scenario to start this game? It just happened, and they got out of it with just giving up the 1.
Stephen Vogt's smiling right now. And the Yankees are smiling too because they're up 1-0. They got their ace on the mound, and it's 1-0 in the first inning. I meant 1-0 being 1-0 in the series. Plus, it's 1-0 in game 2 with their ace on the hill. Both dugouts are smiling right now for different reasons.
What do you mean? Well, Yankees dugout because they got the first run. All right, Garrett, here you go. Here's your 1. Make it hold up.
Exactly. They should have had. The Yankees are feeling lucky right there. They just gave them a run. Cleveland's feeling lucky because we just gave you a run and we kept it to 1 run.
All right. Again, this is our Bret Boone podcast live postseason edition, second string contents, our beta. If you're watching and you would like to comment, we'll look at your comments on YouTube as well. A couple people said, you guys are awesome. All right. So Bret, there's our first comment. We'll read your comments. And by the way, we do have a special surprise coming up in the 3rd inning. We're going to be joined by one of Bret's teammates, and we have some other guests that might pop on the show today as well.
Rich, could you give me about a minute hiatus, and you can take it? I'll chime back in at the minute mark.
All right. See, this is Bret's opportunity. This is the first time we've ever done this, folks. So for those of you that are looking like, what in the world are Herrera and Bret Boone doing? So we kind of had the idea, because Bret and I will watch the games all the time on our own, and then we go back and forth. We send text messages. We'll call up when we see things we don't like. I said, Bret, we should do this for the playoffs. So he said, well, we got to do a beta test. So we said, let's do a beta test tonight. And if this goes well, maybe we'll try it during the World Series. So our partners at Odyssey have been very, very supportive, said, yeah, guys, try it. So I kind of looked around online. There's a lot of folks that do these watch along parties. So yesterday I was watching a couple of them. And if you listen to the podcast, or you listen to me on the Infinity Sports Network, not a Dodger fan. So I found one kid that was doing a Dodger watch along, and I watched him at a complete meltdown. And I said, come on, Bret, we got to do this. So we've watched a couple of them. This isn't a complete ripoff of the Manning cast, although I am wearing a quarter zip today, Bret. But I thought we'd sit and watch the game with people and get a chance to see what they think. So if you're watching us on YouTube or you find this later, this is the beta test. If anybody asks, hey, where did Herrera and Boone start doing this? Well, it was right here, game 2 of the American League Championship Series. So Garrett Cole comes in. He's got a 1-0 lead, Bret, and he's got the lead going into in the beginning of the ballgame. There you go.
Josh Naylor with the base. This is a guy, we talk about Aaron Judge. We know about Aaron Judge. We know about Juan Soto. Stanton having the big postseason so far for the Yankees. For this Indian, I'm still saying Indian. For this Guardian team, we know that Ramirez is the star, the third baseman, perennial MVP candidate. But Josh Naylor, the first baseman, he is the second player on that Indians team. He's Soto to Judge. Naylor is that to Ramirez, and he has been having a really tough time in this postseason.
What happens when you got a guy that has been so nails all regular season long, and then you get to the postseason, whether it's Ramirez on the Cleveland side or Judge on the Yankee side, when you guys that start to struggle over there, have you been through that before?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the difference between this Cleveland team and this Yankee team is the Yankees have a little more firepower than the Indians. Indians have Ramirez. Then you've got Naylor who hit 30 plus home runs. But after that, it really drops off from a production standpoint. Now you've got Quan at the top of the lineup, who's elite as far as a leadoff hitter goes. I compare him a lot to the Padres' Arise, where he's gonna give you a usually a 4, 5, 6, 7 pitch at bat, which really gets to the pitch count up. He's key. But the two power guys are Ramirez and Naylor. And Naylor has been struggling so far in the postseason to get that base hit right there. Maybe that gets a little adrenaline, gets a little confidence for him. Because for this Cleveland team to win, you can't just have Ramirez do it. You got to have Naylor. You got to have all of them in the fold and coming from a different source. Whereas the Yankees, you usually know where you're going to get that production.
What do you think so far? What have you seen from Garrett Cole? Because again, he threw less than 100 innings. He had the shoulder injury, missed a lot of the season, but he's their horse. He's their guy. He's the one who's supposed to set the tone. He makes all the money on the Yankees.
Well, Garrett Cole, Cy Young Award winner 2023, had an injury this year, but the way he finished the season this year, he finished pitching 9 innings, 2 games in a row to win his last 2 starts of the season. His opening start against the KC Royals, he was rusty. He didn't look good. He went 5. I think he gave up 3, and that was being nice. It could have been more than that. The bullpen bailed him out in that game. He wasn't the Garrett Cole we're used to seeing, but he came back in the next game against that Kansas City Royals, and he pitched 7 strong. So 3 out of the last 4 starts from Cole have been what we expect from a Garrett Cole, and he looks sharp tonight.
What makes him filthy?
He just locates. All the great ones, they locate. He's got 3+ pitches. Most people in today's era, you'll see 2+ pitches. He's got 3+ pitches. And when he's locating, he's tough. The one thing about Garrett Cole is he's always been vulnerable to the long ball. So he can pitch great, but he has a tendency to give up the home run. And I don't know. There was I don't have the stats in front of me, but it was like 13 postseason games in a row, Garrett Cole had given up a home run. So he's always vulnerable to the long ball. So see if Cleveland can pop one tonight.
See if they can get out of this. And again, it's 1-0. This is the Bret Boone Podcast Live watch along. I don't know what we're going to call this, but it's our beta test. We figured let's try this now, and if it works, we're going to do this maybe during the World Series. By the way, tell everybody where you are, because I'm looking at you on the screen, and it looks like you're in a hotel lobby.
I am in Idaho Falls. We're up here. I've been doing this trip for about 30 years now. A good friend of mine, we stay at his ranch, and it's a pretty cool place. So I'm upstairs in the pool with the pool table room. It was kind of away from downstairs. They're having dinner here in a minute. So I'm kind of away from everybody else.
All right. Hey, by the way, if you want to join us in the chat as well, we're monitoring that. So Jared says, Bret, hey, Bret, I remember your home run in Game 3 of the 2001 ALCS. He said we could have used a couple of those in Games 1 and 2.
Is he talking Cleveland? Oh,
no, it's Mariners. I think it's a Mariners fan, 2001.
Oh, so he needed me to hit home runs in all 3 games?
Yes.
Oh,
yeah, I need you to hit more home runs.
Jared, that would be great. I would have loved that too. But home runs come when they come.
Come on, you don't just try to dial one up.
I think I hit 2 in that series. I hit one in the 8th inning, and I think Game 4 to give us the lead 1-0 or 2-0. We ended up, the ghost showed up, and we ended up losing that game.
I was listening to, I think it's going to be Game 3 starter. He was on Sirius XM this afternoon. I was driving around. He's a Mariners fan, or grew up a Mariners fan. And he was talking about, he goes, how interesting is it? I grew up an M's fan. He was talking about your 2001 team. And he said, here I am taking on the 2 teams that destroyed my childhood. The Yankees and the Cleveland Indians give the Mariners so much of a hard time over the years.
Yeah. And like I said, I love the Bronx going to Yankee Stadium. Uh, I would always circle that on the schedule because I love going there. I love the atmosphere. I love that back east vibe. I love the crowd yelling at me, telling me how much I stunk. But the thing about Yankee fans and the fans in New York is they'll give it to you, but when you really perform and you have a big game, they'll give you credit as well. So I was looking forward to it, and yeah, love my time playing in New York. I always thought one day before I retire, I'm going to get to play in New York. Never happened, but I loved it. I loved it.
All right, we're heading to the bottom of the second inning as Jimenez will pop out to first. 1-0 Yankees over the Cleveland Indians. So again, for those just tuning in, this is the Bret Boone Podcast Live. So if you don't follow our podcast, Bret and I started a podcast together. Bret, we've been doing this, since 2020, right around the pandemic, right?
Right around the pandemic, we started. I remember my first podcast. It was Andre Reed, and we've got a lot of episodes in the hopper ever since then. But it's been a journey, and it's been a learning process. But it gives you an appreciation for this side of the ledger, and the work that really goes in behind the scenes. I have a great team, coupled with Odyssey Sports, who's come on board in the last year and a half. And it's been a lot of fun. It's been a different chapter of my life. You're used to being a ball player all your life. Now you're going to bring baseball to the fans, and yeah, I've really enjoyed it.
So Jared says, Booney, I was just giving you a hard time. Pinella took Halama out way too early. I think it was game 4.
Yeah, you're always going to hear that. We should have done this. You should have done that. Jared, I appreciate you chiming in. No, I get it. And that's what makes this game so great. You talk about crazy people. The New York Yankee fans are crazy, but I love them for it. They expect the expectations are so high. And as an athlete, you've got to love that. When they expect so much out of you, you're going to hear it when things aren't going good, but that's part of when you sign on the dotted line, you know what you're signing up for, especially if you're signing up to be a Yankee. You're going to take the good with the bad, but in the long run, and I talk to Aaron about this all the time. I said, if you ever win there in New York, you're going to have the key to that city for the rest of your life. So where would you want to manage anywhere if you have the opportunity to then Yankee Stadium be the skipper for the New York Yankees? It's it's a hot stove, but I wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
All right, so the Yankees are going to send up Volpe, Rizzo, and Verdugo. And can I bring in our special guest?
Who is that?
We got a special guest. If you give me a thumbs up, I'll bring you on right now if you're ready to go.
Bring him in right now, baby.
Let's bring him in right now. All right, so we're going to bring in we're going to have some special guests pop on with us during this podcast. And there he is, ladies and gentlemen, Mike Cameron joining us here on the Bret Boone Podcast Live postseason edition. Mike, how are you?
What's up, Rich? And the caboose.
Cammy, this is the maiden voyage for the simulcast, the Boone Podcast simulcast of the postseason. I'll tell you what I'm finding early. Rich is making me talk an awful lot. So I'm glad you popped in.
Yeah, I'm done talking. I'm going to let you guys talk.
All good. I'm with it. It's a little chilly up in New York right now. So.
Hey, doesn't it bring it back, though?
Yeah.
I was telling Rich earlier, I said, playing a day game in July in Yankee Stadium, that's one thing. But you're playing a night game in the postseason, that wind starts whipping. It's almost like you can close your eyes, you know where you're at.
Most definitely. And the smell also. It's the concrete jungle.
When you think of Yankee Stadium, Mike, what pops into your head when somebody asks about playing in the Bronx?
Well, for one, Rich, we played in old Yankee Stadium, which was supposedly filled with so many woo ghosts or whatever it may be. But the confines in Yankee Stadiums were much more close confined than the new stadium that they have. And I think, it was always a tough place to play. I remember I heard Booney talking about when we played there in July. It may have been late August in 2001. And we went in and swept the Yankees, swept them like 4 game sweep. And I remember going to second base, and it was kind of like at the end of the game. I remember Jeter telling me, "We'll see you in October." And I was like, yeah, you're right. I mean, he was right. I mean, at that point, that's when baseball went through Yankee Stadium. Everyone always felt like you had to beat them because otherwise all the calls were going to go their way, and everything was going to be pretty much lined up for them to get a victory. It's tough. It's tough to win in the Bronx, but when you do, it's the best.
Cammy, I want to get your perspective on this because I get asked by fans all the time. You'll talk about a postseason and they'll go to the regular season stats and say, well, this team was 8-3 over this team. I said, that's pretty good to have a good feeling against the team you're gonna match up with in the postseason.
Yeah.
But because of, like you just said, we went to New York that year, swept them, came back, and we ended up losing in that ALCS. So I don't give much credit to the regular season record. When the postseason starts, it's like a clean slate. That's my feelings. I want to get yours.
Definitely. The one thing that happened is you don't face the fourth and fifth starter. You're facing the top three guys most of the time, and you're probably facing the number one twice. So it makes it tough because they're going to use the same guys, and it's the toughest guys that you have on your roster from a pitching staff standpoint, and it's going to be like when you're facing, in our case, I think we faced Roger Clemens twice, Andy Pettit once, and Mosina in that last time we played against them. And man, they made it very tough for us. And we just, obviously the 2001 series was very tough because of what we went through with the 9/11, and that made it very tough for us. But you have to, I think there's so much information now, but at the same time, I've just felt like we were facing some true number ones and some true horses, and you had to find a way to get them. And you knew the game was going to be close, and it was going to come down to maybe a walk. It could come down to a base hit, a guy going first or third. And that's pretty much what it's like when you play in the playoffs. You're facing the best pitcher at least twice in a 7-game series.
Okay, so right now it's the bottom of the second. Let me update everybody. I got runners at second and third. Nobody out. Bybee versus Verdugo. Go ahead, Bret.
Well, I think you're in the same situation, back-to-back innings. Wow.
So Verdugo is going to double down the line. So again, this isn't quite the Manning cast, so all of us are catching at different times. Verdugo is going to double down the line to the left fielder. Volpe scores, and it moves Rizzo over to third. So Mike, second inning in a row, Bybee's in trouble.
Yeah, these guys seem to be locked in on. He's throwing a lot of balls. That was a tough one. I'm behind you guys a little bit, but that one that pitch that just was thrown just there, that was pretty good hitting. He don't normally hit the ball down the third base line. So, there's just some of those little things that happen in postseason play that you have to contend with and be ready to play the game on all facets. Right now, they just Tabby, he's just not really executing his pitches right now, and the Yankees are taking advantage of it early, and that's not good if they get behind that much with Garrett Cole on the mound.
Well, I think this too, because you got Garrett Cole, the ace of the Yankees. He's on the hill tonight, and Bybee's been the ace for the Cleveland Guardians. I said the last thing that they wanted to have to do tonight was to go to their bullpen early, because that's the strength of that Cleveland that Guardian team is that bullpen. They're elite. But when you got Bybee out there, he's got to get you to mid-game with either close or tied, and hand it over that bullpen. And then the advantage goes to the Guardians. But back-to-back innings facilitated by an error in the first inning. This second inning, now we got second and third, no outs, another run in, 2-0. He's in trouble again. And to ask somebody in the postseason to continually get out of these big situations is a big ask.
Most definitely. And as you can see, Smith is already warming up in the bullpen down there. So you don't want that to happen with your starter, who's supposed to be your best starter over the course of this season. It puts tremendous amount of the pressure on the offense and the Cleveland Guardians right now.
So Mike Cameron joining us right now on the Bret Boone Podcast Live postseason edition. So Mike, all the stars come out for this one. I mean, My niece Alice was all excited because Taylor Swift was there last night with Jason Kelsey. So if you know the T Swizzle showing up and all the Swifties, like my niece are getting excited, then you know it's a big game, right?
Oh, most definitely. It's the Bronx. It's like, I guess it is in October, this is the Broadway outside.
Right.
So, obviously having the Yankees in the playoffs and having this star-studded event happen, it's always good for baseball when you have the Yankees in the playoff because you know these stars are going to show up. Same thing is going to happen in Queens here tomorrow. You know, some of those the true fans of the New York Mets.
Do you pay attention to any of that stuff when Taylor Swift shows up? Do you even know the Seinfeld's there or whoever is in the stands? And for us fans watching, woo, look how exciting this is.
Yeah, you most of the time you don't know unless they're sitting directly in the stands and they show them on a big screen or something like that. You don't really pay attention to those things in a sense. I saw Taylor Swift. They were sitting in a box, so you don't really know unless they show them on the big screen. I don't think the players are really thinking about that unless they're on the field. I heard Daddy Yankee was on the field earlier today.
He was.
Jim Bowden decided to make sure you go get a picture with him too. So
Jim Bowden didn't know who he was. I was listening to that. Jim I worked with JB. JB didn't know who he was. Look, Bret Boone doesn't know who he is.
Who?
Jim Bowden. He didn't know who Daddy Yankee was.
Ask Bret if he knows who Daddy Yankee is.
Who's Daddy Yankee?
He's kind of a rap reggaeton guy for big.
He's a big star.
Yeah, he is. Daddy Yankee's big. Daddy Yankee is big.
My kids would know who he is?
Maybe.
They live in San Diego.
Yeah, he's a big East Coast guy.
My kids are pretty hip though. They usually, that's the thing I find. When we're getting old, Mike, my kids your kids will usually let you know and
fill you in.
They'll mention a name and I'll say, I don't know who that is. And they'll look at me like I got two heads. Like, how do you not know who he is? I'll say,
TikTok.
Yeah, TikTok. There you go.
Somebody in our generation that was huge. And the kids will look at you once again like you got two heads. Like, what are you talking about, Dad? I've never heard of him. I said, what?
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, Mike, ask Bret if he knows who Taylor Swift is.
Yeah, I'm sure he knows who Taylor Swift is.
All right. Listen, come on.
Swift and the Kelsey Show.
Yeah.
I was asked about that today, Rich, on the Fan in Cleveland, and they asked me. I said, I know Kelsey's a hell of a football player. I don't know too much. I know Swift's a very popular musician, but other than that, I don't know too much about either one of them. And to be honest with you, I don't really care.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm with you. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of little Swifties that
you got to be careful. I mean, listen, if my niece Alice, you say anything bad about Taylor Swift, she's ready to fight. She'll throw down.
Yeah, I'm sure. Look, I thought Taylor Swift would be a big fan of the Boston Red Sox because she's from up that way, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Way, so
who's the biggest star that ever came around when you guys were playing in
I think
Seattle?
Taylor Swift is the biggest fan of whatever the big event is going on that night. I think she's a fan of that.
You got a good point.
There you go.
Right. And she's going to go watch, watch Kelsey play. But other than that, it's if she's not watching her boyfriend, it's what's the biggest event in town? I'm going there.
Okay, let's get back to the game. I just want to point out to everybody, Kate Smith's going to come in and take over for Tanner Bybee. So Stephen Vogt has to go to the pen early. Mike, they talked about Cleveland has the best bullpen of probably all the teams left of the playoff, but man, that's a lot of outs are going to have to go to that bullpen tonight. They're well rested, but to knock the starter out that quick, that's something, Mike.
Yeah, Rich, I don't think they designed it like this for their pitcher only going 1 1/3. So it's kind of tough. You got a bases loaded right now with Judge up. I don't care what kind of bullpen you got. You're putting yourself in a massive amount of trouble right now.
Well, this is Judge's second opportunity. Runner on third, less than 2.
Right now he's just trying to get something where he can get in the air pretty much and not swing and miss. Oh,
Cammy,
go ahead.
When we played, I always thought I can deal with an 0 for 4. I can deal with, maybe I can turn a big double play and help the team some way. But the thing I couldn't live with was that runner on third, less than 2 outs, not getting that done. That made me stay awake at night. I could deal with
Yeah.
that runner on third. Uh-oh.
So Judge is going to hit a sacrifice fly to center field. Lane Thomas hauls it in. Rizzo is going to score, so there's 2 outs. So there you go. Judge gets the job done, right, Mike?
Definitely. I mean, that is primarily, especially he was down 0-2 or 1-2 or something like that. That's big in his case to just be a contributor at this point right now. And just trying to constantly get his swing off and get it right. You know, he's been under a lot of pressure right now. And that's a good job right there. You just got to run. And that makes it just a little bit tougher to be able to come back against the New York Yankees once again with Garrett Cole on the mound, who's 4-0 against these guys and been dominating for a while.
I'll tell you what, Rich, the only, when you're struggling like that, a sac fly situation, and as little a thing it seems, to the viewer of, he hit a sac fly, no big deal, he didn't get a hit. I'll tell you what, to a hitter, that's the beginning of good things starting to happen. When you can get a pitch out over the plate and just hit a sacrifice fly, it doesn't seem like much, but it really does a lot for you. And Aaron Judge, before it's all said and done in this postseason, if they continue on and they're looking pretty good right now, he's going to be a factor. And that's one step closer right there.
Most definitely.
Hey, Mike, what's that situation like when you come up with the bases loaded like that? They bring in somebody from the bullpen. For the people watching, take us inside the batter's box for someone who's a slugger like yourself, or Judge, who everybody expects an extra base hit. Walk through all that.
One of the biggest things for me is like really being aggressive enough where you can get a pitch up in the zone where you can at least get a sac fly. I mean, that's to take a lot of pressure off yourself to be able to produce in that situation. It's probably the hardest thing to do because that guy's trying to get you out. So you just try not to chase early, but get something in the zone and get the barrel on it as best as you can and get it to the outfield. The key is, though, as we always say, since we've been 5 or 6 years old, 7 years old, since someone pitching to you, get a good pitch to get the bat on the ball.
Bret, how hard is that to get a good pitch and not get too aggressive, especially if your Judge has been scuffling?
Sometimes it's impossible. You're not, your eyes aren't working very good. And, usually when you're struggling, you're not seeing the ball, you're not seeing spin. You're chasing a lot of bad pitches. When you're locked in, man, it seems like that ball's in slow motion. You see the curveball, you see the breaking ball, you see the cutter right out of the hand, and it's not even a question. When you get yourself, for me, when they get me to flinch, when I'd flinch at a breaking ball, that told me right there I'm not seeing it very well. Because when I'm seeing it great out of his hand, my brain tells me ball right away. And when I'm seeing it, when I'm not seeing it well, it's I don't know. It's a check swing. It's a flinch. And you get me to flinch, I'm not seeing it well.
Yeah.
Does the pitcher recognize that, Mike, when they see you flinch? They go, "Oh, wait a minute, he's not seeing this thing. I can really attack him."
I'll tell you what, if a pitcher don't see it, the catcher definitely does. I mean, so they know right away what your aggression is, and you're really not in a position to do much with it. So, they're going to try to go back with that same pitch, maybe just a little bit off the plate to get you to chase at it, to get you down the count where, when you're down 0-2, it's tough. Now you're battling just to kind of put the ball in play, and you may end up nubbing one, chopping one, and then it's a double play. Then you're in a double play situation.
All right, so we're going to get to the top of the third inning. Yankees leading 3-0 over the Cleveland Indians. They're up 1-0 in the series so far. And, if you're the Cleveland Indians, you got to get something going against Garrett Cole right here, Bret.
Oh, absolutely. Going into this game, it's not a do or die, but it's as close to a do or die as you can be. You go down 2 to this Yankee team, it's going to be a heavy lift getting back to equal the series. So, yeah, the great team don't force it; they let it come to them. But as this rolls on, and the more Garrett Cole gets comfortable, the tougher he gets. One thing always to remember, though, with Garrett, and he's got a great record against the Cleveland Guardians. He's 4-0, as Mike pointed out. There's one There's one player on the Guardians team hitting above, I think, 250, and that's Ramirez, their star third baseman. But as that game rolls on, the one thing you got to keep in the back of your mind, Garrett Cole is and always will be vulnerable to the home run ball. But I tell you, the more he gets locked in, the more he gets feeling he's locating his pitches really well right now, the tougher it's going to get for Cleveland as the game goes on.
More people jumping in the chat. By the way, Mike, we've got a big Mariners fan, Jared, who's been commenting back to the 2001 season. By the way, Brett Riggs jumped in and said, "What's up, Mr. Boone?" So more people are jumping on watching this because Cammy, this is the first time we're beta testing this, seeing how it goes. So I think it's going kind of well because this is what Brett and I do. Does he text you during the games as well sometimes?
Yeah, we always texting like if somebody does something stupid, do a dumb play, whatever it may be. We always kind of like chit-chatting on the call. Did you see that? Did you see that swing or did you see that play? We're always kind of going back and forth, just kind of giving our thoughts on what transpired.
Rich, I want to point something out too with this Guardian team. I'm talking about how great their bullpen. It was dominant. I think number one in all of baseball this year. But this Yankee bullpen, Holmes had trouble. Their closer, he's been the closer for the last 3 or 4 years in New York. Base hit to center field.
Base hit center field, runner on.
Holmes, he really had some hiccups down the stretch. First time I've seen him really struggle in that closer role for the Yankees, and he really had a tough time down the stretch. Aaron took him out of that closing position, put Weaver in. He's been excellent ever since. But even when he first took him out of the closer role and he came in the seventh, he still didn't look like the Holmes I'm used to seeing. Recently, they're using Holmes in that 7th and 8th inning to get to Weaver. I'll tell you what, Holmes is starting to look like that vintage elite Holmes closer stuff again. If he's right, you got Ian Hamilton, you've got Holmes, you've got Canely and Weaver to finish it off. That New York bullpen becomes real formidable now and a real strength on that Yankee team. So it's not just the Indians with the great bullpen. Yankees potentially, when Holmes is right, they have a great bullpen as well.
Does that affect how you attack a pitching staff when you know that they've got that power bullpen? And, I don't want to go back to these Yankee teams and make Jared mad who's watching us, but, when you're able to shorten that game up against New York with Mo at the back end, you knew that you had to get to that starter or you had to get to that middle relief, because if they got to Stan and Mo at the end of the game, it was game over. It was a 7-inning game.
Yeah, back I guess in our era when we were playing, I think you would have maybe 2 or 3 guys that were specialists like this. Now these guys have at least 4 guys that are delivering out of the bullpen that could be very, very dirty over the course after you face the starter a couple times. So, like as long as Garrett Cole continue to goes in this game and everything kind of stays as it is, the Yankees bullpen gets much better as you go on. The strength of the Cleveland the Cleveland Guardians. I'm so sorry, I got in trouble.
You owe me $1.
I'm so sorry. The Guardians' strength also is for their starters probably to go 5 innings and then they become much more dominant because they've kind of got it set up with those guys. Back when we were playing, if the starter didn't go 5 or 6 innings, then you had a swing guy to come in to bridge it to the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning. I think these guys now are building bullpens to start out in the 5th inning on to the back of it. But over the course of a season, that will wear out in a minute. And right now, teams are well rested, but these guys have been pitching a lot because teams use their bullpen a lot on a daily basis.
All right, so the Yankees have, Cole is on the mound right now. Cleveland has 2 on, 1 away here in the top of the 3rd inning. So Cole gave up a hit and then a walk to Quan. So right now, the Cleveland Guardians getting some kind of offense going, Brett. They got to put something up just to kind of stem the tide and maybe even just get momentum out of that New York dugout.
Well, you got to get a point on the board. That's what they're thinking right now. It's 3-0.
That's what I was trying to say, Brett.
You got to get a point on the board. And to Mike's point on the bullpens are different than in 2024. They're different than they were even 7-8 years ago, where now ball clubs and organizations are making financial commitments strictly to the bullpen. In our day, it was, if you're not good enough to be a starter, you go to the bullpen and you turn into a setup guy, you turn into a closer. Few teams had elite bullpens, but not like today where they plan for it. And they actually, in the minor leagues, you start off as a relief pitcher. In our day, the best pitchers were always starting pitchers. And I'll speak for myself. Mike can add on if he wants, but our thing was, let's get that starter out of the game to get into that bullpen. I think today with some of these elite bullpens, those players are saying, well, let's let this starter go a little longer because we don't want to get into the bullpen. I think if anything's changed in the last 15 years, I think it's the strength of the bullpen and the money that's put into the bullpen, the investment that organizations are making into bullpens.
Mike, how does that make it tougher as a hitter? Because before, listen, if I get to that soft underbelly, that middle relief, I can feast on those guys.
No, Rich, all these guys coming in now and throwing 100 from all different type of angles. They got different pitches that they invented and everything else. And probably the biggest thing too, also, one of the biggest things that makes it very difficult when you have all these guys come in with these different angles, as Garrett Cole gets ready to make this pitch from my perspective, it's probably be a high fastball. Oh, fastball in. Got out of that one. But, from my perspective, I think the strike zone is definitely different. So these guys are throwing 100 miles an hour at the top of the strike zone. And along with that, they got these sweepers now and gyro ball and everything that you could possibly come up with. So
do you ever sit there, Mike, sometimes like, you know what, I'm kind of glad I'm sitting on the couch texting with Boone instead of standing there facing this, right?
Most definitely, because I think now, like when we were playing, they didn't mind us the starter going against a guy facing a guy 3 times. He just had to figure out how to get through that realm of the 3rd time. Now they're quick to bring somebody else in to give you all different shapes, angles, to make it very tough. And it does make it tough. It's like a spring training game, but you're facing the best every day. So
I think too, when it comes to that, it's how you're brought up. In our day, the starters were in the minor leagues. Is you go.
Jose Ramirez is going to fly out to center field, so the Yankees turn the Cleveland Guardians away in the top of the 3rd. We head to the bottom of the 3rd, 3-0 Yankees on top of the Cleveland Guardians. And I'm very proud of myself, fellas. I haven't said the former name of the Cleveland Major League Baseball club once tonight.
I did.
You always still do it.
Do you guys know? Do you guys have you ever heard this story before, where a lot of this started back in the day in Oakland when Billy Beane was just taking over for Sandy Alderson? They tried to figure out sabermetrics, and Billy was reading the baseball abstract from Bill James, and they went to go figure out, why are the Yankees so much better than everybody else? And they figured out that the Yankees saw more pitches for the starting pitchers than anybody else in baseball, which meant most starting pitchers were done by the 5th, 6th inning, which gave them opportunities to get to the middle relief. And once Oakland started figuring that out, that's when they really went crazy with sabermetrics, which is spread throughout baseball.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mike.
I was going to say, obviously, just knowing, and also too, it allowed them to get more bang for their buck, or bargain, so to speak. So they're looking for these guys that have a specialty in what they do. But make no mistake about it, they had 3 of the best starters that I've seen, on a team that were willing to go 6, 7 1/3 innings or whatever. That is that
Mulder Zito Hudson?
Mulder Hudson Zito, yes. Yeah. That, and then at one point they also had Kevin Appier, so
right,
he was kind of like on the back end of his career. So these guys,
they threw Candiotti in there just to mess you up.
Yeah.
Well,
wait, hold on a second. I see the look on Mike's face when I said Candiotti. You just kind of shook your head. And look,
Candiotti was tough because he threw a fastball, so that made it really tough. Yes,
and a curveball.
like he actually pitched, but he pitched with a knuckleball.
I think too, and Mike, who works for the Seattle Mariners, does a lot with their farm system. The culture is different now than when we were brought up. Guys are taught different things. It's like, you know, we both have kids that are playing. Mike's son ended up the season with the Oakland A's. And it's got to be funny for him. I know it's funny for me when they break out those cue cards and they start looking at them. We never did anything like that, but we weren't brought up that way. It's
right.
The culture. I think the starting pitchers back in our day in the minor leagues, the culture was, hey, you go 7-8 innings as a starter, and it was a mindset. Today's player, they're said, you go 5, you're built to go 5, and then we hand it over to the bullpen. So it's a mindset. So it's not necessarily the player's fault. You know, because you'll get a lot of criticism from fans, especially old school fans, where, oh, they go 5 and then that's it. Well, it's not necessarily their fault. That's how they're brought through the system. That's the culture of the game in 2024.
Mike, is there one thing, if you could change one thing about the game of baseball, what would it be?
With the new rules included, Rich, or just
something?
Well, first of all, we don't need to have a limit of having a guy throw over 3 times over at first base. I don't think the bases need to be bigger, and I do think that that ball smoked. I do think that the pitching, you know, this clock type of deal. I mean, I like where the games are going right now, but I think sometimes they're going a little too fast. And so I would kind of maybe move some of this time back a little bit and allow it to allow these guys to process a little bit better. Obviously, the way the minor leagues are right now, it's even more of a sped up situation. So it doesn't give these guys a chance to really process the game in a sense than what they do. But other than that, you know, like, I mean, it's just a different form of baseball. The fundamentals are still the same. It's just a different way, the way they think about the game and how they approach the game in this day. I would really get rid of those big oven mitts too. Come on, man. It's killing me.
That would really benefit you, base stealer. You get an extra inch to get to the base. That's why they're wearing. I mean, they're the fingers. But they also get you to the base quicker.
Obviously, it is a big help because of instant replay. The tags on the back now, and so they're getting guys before they even reach the base. But I just feel like I'm going to steal the base regardless, and that's not going to make a difference for me. You know, those little bit of inches, because if I know a guy can throw over 2 times, and then his 3rd time he has to go, I'm going to make it really tough. And most of the guys, they're always trying to steal off they say they're stealing off the catcher. You steal the base off the pitcher.
How so? To explain that to me, because that's something we hear broadcasters like me say all the time. And that's a fun thing about when we do the podcast, Mike. I give them all the broadcaster cliches, and then Bret goes, Herrera, you don't know anything about baseball. So let me hear Mike Cameron tell me.
Well, so the first thing is, like, they're more like, I didn't care if it was Pudge Rodriguez behind the plate or whomever or whatever it may have been. The objective is to get the best possible lead and the best jump you can get to put pressure on the pitcher. And then there are some guys that are really good. The guys that got really good feet, you couldn't get a much larger lead. So if you're worried about the catcher throwing you out, then you're not going to steal the base off the pitcher in the first place. And those are the focus that the great Ricky Henderson taught me about, was making sure you focus on the guy that has the ball that can disrupt what you're trying to do.
Bret, what would you change about the game if you could?
Well, my answer is simple. If I'm playing and I want to change one rule, I'm going to make third base first because I'm that much closer as a right-handed hitter. So that's my easy answer. That checks all the boxes for me. I want to touch on something, Mike, because I wasn't a base stealer.
Let me hold on, Bret. Let me update everybody. Okay, so the Yankees don't score on the bottom of the third. We're heading the top of the 4th, 3-0 Yankees on top of Cleveland. Go ahead.
I wanted to, because you get asked all the time, and you see guys, and I think it's great for the game that guys are stealing bases again. I think the rule they put in with the 2 throw-over rule, I think that's really encouraged people to start stealing bases. Acuna a year ago stole 70 Shohei Ohtani went 55-55, I think, this year. Or no, 50-50.
Yeah.
Something that hasn't happened ever. And I don't want to take anything away from Ohtani because I think he's an unbelievable player doing big things in LA. But I think of my base stealing friends, of Mike Cameron, Mark McLemore. I think of the great Ricky Henderson, the Vince Colemans. And I always think because I wasn't a base stealer, I don't really get offended by how many bases people. I always think if I was a base stealer, I'd be thinking, wait a minute, these guys are doing that. I wonder what Ricky's thinking when he sees somebody steal 70 bases with you can only throw over twice. And I always wonder, what do my base stealing buddies think about this today? Do you roll your eyes, Cammy, and go, damn, if I had those rules when I played, I'd have stolen extra 200 bases in my career. What do you think is a base steal?
I would take advantage of it. I tell guys all the time, like, I'm sorry, bigger bases, a guy can only throw over twice, and the catcher's on one knee. That's a disadvantage. And I think these guys are now so worried and more so concerned with either stealing strikes and also throwing their max velocity that they're not worried about the fundamentals or the mechanics of trying to pick a guy off or keep a guy close anymore. They're just like, I guess from the data, it says like the focus is on trying to get the outs as much as possible. That's also scared a lot of base stealers in the past because these analytic departments are saying, well, if you don't make it 77.5% of the time, we're not going to run, which is stagnant baseball. You have to take chances in this game because you're literally at a disadvantage before the game even starts. I mean, so, you try to encourage guys to be aggressive in all facets, not just only base stealer, but just being a good base runner, period, to apply pressure on the team because what they say today is that it's really hard to score runs. So, and you got to hit the ball out of the ballpark to score runs. So, I just think that if you have a well-balanced team that can put pressure on the opposition, you can always use every skill set that you got to take it into a game to try to win a game that day.
All right, I got a question from YouTube here. Somebody wants to know which of the teams that you guys think are the most fun to watch? Who do you like watching? Who's fun to watch? Because that's all about baseball right now. Let's enjoy the game. So who do you guys
in the
think
playoffs, Rich? In the playoffs,
just
or
overall,
just
if you're watching, because you guys both watch baseball, you watch the Mariners a lot. Who's fun to watch?
I like. Obviously, I like this one team is the Cincinnati Reds. That's a big swing right there for the big fella Naylor.
Yeah, Naylor's going to get a base hit to lead off the bottom of the fourth.
2 for 2. Struggling Naylor, 2 for 2.
Yeah,
that's big if they're going to want to win this series. You got to have him.
Yeah, I like the Cincinnati Reds just because they do so many different things on a baseball field. And they play in a bandbox, so it's electricity from the start with their shortstop. I like watching the quality. For this year, I like to watch Kansas City Royals. They were very good. Like they don't have any big names other than Bobby Witt Jr. and Salvador Perez, but also the first baseman. He was hurt a little bit. But I did like that team. They were electric, man. And I think, look, they didn't really show up. I mean, they kind of got off to a bad start, but just me watch because my kid was on there. Like Oakland was like, having Brett Rucker and Lawrence Butler, that 1-2 punch. And those guys would like put it together sometimes where they would be dangerous against some teams. But, I like all of the teams and what they're able to bring. I think probably the one that I'm thinking about in another team in the National League was seeing how teams like the Mets put it together, over the course of time, over the course of a season, how they put things together. And, it was fun seeing what Detroit can do, considering that team hasn't been in the playoffs since 2015. Or something
let me update everybody. It's the bottom of the fourth inning. Thomas is going to reach in a fielder's choice. fielded by third baseman Chisholm. Naylor to second. Naylor advances to second on a fielding error by Chisholm. So when it's all said and done, I got nobody out runners at first and second.
That's a tough error right there.
Yeah, it is. Nobody touched the ball.
I like, to come to talk about to Mike's point. He mentioned Detroit. He mentioned Kansas City. He mentioned the Mets. Three teams that I loved because you don't get to see them much. Nobody's talking about the Detroit Tigers and the Kansas City Royals. They're not on the game of the week. And I thought it was great down the stretch, the way they played just to get a seat at the table in the postseason. Really was fun to watch. I also think the New York Mets, you talk about being down and out several times. And even in this series, the National League Series, the Dodgers are the Giants of the National League. But I'll tell you, I would never count the Mets out. They got the series 1-1 over there. So I really like how people played down the stretch and got to the postseason. This is my funnest time of year now. As a player, if my team make it to the postseason, I'd go home. I'd be somewhere else. I wouldn't watch the game much. But in 2024, with this new playoff format, I really enjoy watching these games. I've become a fan of the postseason.
Yeah. I mean, when you get a chance to get in, and you got these fan bases that teams that haven't been there and God knows how long. I mean, it does make it fun for these guys. So, they talk about now you probably only have to win about. I feel like if you win 90 games, you're probably going to get in, and so
because it's more of a tournament now. They're trying to win a pennant. Yeah, by the way, Brennan's gonna ground out to second. So now there's one away runners at second and third. So again, Cleveland, Bret, keeps threatening, and Cole's been pretty good at keeping him at bay.
Yeah, this is a big at bat right here. You've got to score right here to just get a little momentum on your side. Down 3-0 to Cole. You got to do a job right here. First, second, and third. You got to put this ball in play.
I'm a little behind you guys, so.
And a lot of times, Rich, in this type of situation, it all comes down to the pitcher. You might not see this particular pitcher. If a defense is giving you this run, what I mean by that is infield back. Sometimes your only defense is to hit a 16 hopper to the shortstop. That still gets that run across, and it's important right now for these guys to put a run on the board.
So Jimenez is going to draw the walk. So now the bases are loaded, one away for Cole right here. So Mike, this is the point where this is one of those tipping points in the ball game. You've been trying and you've had opportunities, but haven't been able to push one across against Cole. But now you got him with three runners on, and Fry, you had that big pinch hit home run, and then the safety squeeze. So I guess this is the guy you want up there right now.
Definitely. Like I said, Rich, I was a little bit behind you guys, but I think this is a opportunity for the Guardians to actually get in in a situation where they can actually put it together. And they got a good batter up here. Is he?
Yeah, that's David Fry is going to pinch hit for Bo Naylor. So, guys. I think they're going to go have a mound visit right now as well. So give me your thoughts. If you're David Fry, Bret, Mike, what are you thinking as you're coming in to pinch hit in the situation right now?
I'm not thinking the bases are loaded. I'm thinking there's a runner on third. I can't emphasize it enough. Your job isn't to hit a grand slam right now. Your job isn't to get a base hit. Your job is to hit a sac fly first, put it in play. Your job is to not strike out right now. You got to put this ball in play, preferably a base hit, obviously. But if a sac fly will do, a 12 hopper that you can't turn a double play, that'll work as well.
Yeah, they finally have him on the ropes. I mean, you got one out right here. You're just trying to get Garrett Cole, and Garrett Cole is trying to get ahead and be aggressive also. So if you're able to get a pitch in the zone that you can do get the barrel to, I'm not going to say do damage to, but that's the objective is, but you want to get something where you can handle in the zone and to be able to put the barrel on the baseball, at least get your team in the game.
Yes, he's going to take David Fry, the pinch hitter, is going to take that first pitch, and he pops out into foul territory to Jazz Chisholm for 2 outs. So, Mike, there you go. It was up a little bit in the zone, and he pops it up, and now you're really against it because Cole's 1 out away from wiggling out of another jam.
Literally, he is. I mean, it's the same as always. Cole, I mean, that's the reason why he's been very dominant against the Cleveland Guardians.
And Cole is starting to feel better about it too now, because he's thinking, I've been, maybe I haven't had my best stuff, especially the last 2 innings, but I keep getting out of it. That's just, that's empowering as a player.
Is that veteran moxie?
Experience, definitely. I mean, you when you've been through a few situations, you've been there before, so you kind of understand what you're going through at a particular time and make some adjustments the way you want to. I mean,
and now the crowd starts getting into a little bit more, right? The energy starts going up.
Most definitely, because they feel it. They know that they were on the ropes right there, and Garrett Cole was able to pull a few strings and kind of get out of this. If he makes this pitch right here, let's see.
Bret?
Well, I think, you talk about crowds and big home field advantage. I saw Padres. That place was rocking. You go to Philadelphia, it's probably as electric as any crowd. New York Yankees in the Bronx, that gets pretty electric. But the way you, as an opponent, the way to counter that is to score more runs than the other team. That takes the crowd out of it really quick. But when the home team gets the leads in New York, the crowd really becomes a home field advantage.
Can they be a 10th man? I mean, do you feel the pressure of those crowd and the Bronx Zoo yelling and screaming and carrying on?
Absolutely, but at the same time, you can take them out, and they become a 10th man for the opponent. If you can jump on the home team in New York, get a lead, it really takes the air out of the room, and that could almost be like a 10th man for the opponent.
So, Mike, do I make a difference if I'm standing there yelling? I'm at T-Mobile Park and I'm trying to root on the Mariners. If I'm going crazy out there, making noise, banging on the seat, whatever it takes, do I make a difference?
Most definitely. I mean, that energy that the people, that they bring into the ballpark, it makes it very where you have to be able to calm yourself down and understand that, this moment is a very particular situation where you can enjoy the heck out of it and feed off of it, especially when you're at home. I mean, it's so good. I've been in so many parks where it's been going crazy in that ballpark at T-Mobile Park when we were there, obviously, and to have those people behind, the fans behind you, it's a good feeling. And when you do good, when you do something well, it makes you feel really good about it.
Okay, so right now we got an extended at bat. I mean, we're at 8 pitches right now. Bret, Mike, when you get an extended battle like this, I mean, knuckle curve, four seam, knuckle curve, cutter. He's throwing everything but the kitchen sink at him. What's the hitter thinking?
He's feeling better about himself. I can tell you that much. He feel like he's probably one pitch away from getting a pretty good swing on him because he's throwing everything at him. And the longer the hitter stays up at the plate, the better he should feel about himself.
Bret?
Without a doubt, you're getting Cole's pitch count up. It's up to 70 now, but I think it's all for naught if you finish this inning without scoring.
Who gets the advantage, Bret, the longer it goes, the pitcher or the hitter?
Usually the hitter, because you're on all his pitches. You're not being fooled much. So usually the advantage goes to the hitter.
Oh, he throws a nasty pitch top of the strike zone, called strike 3. So Cole, hey, you know what? I'll take it. He's going to get through 4 with a 3-0 lead, Mike.
Yeah, that was a tough one, man. But that's the strike zone that they have now. Most of the time when you see the pop and it's a breaking ball, they didn't really call that at the top of the zone. But now that's a part of it right now. So that was a tough at bat from the kid right there, and to go out on that is pretty tough because he fought on that. He fought on that and that at bat itself.
He did. Hey, Mike, I appreciate you coming on with us as we do our little test here. What'd you think?
I like it, man. Get more people in the chat, in the comments. It'll be real nice. See if they can come up with some better things.
And I'm going to call you next time just so you can give me some more advice about hanging out with Boone on a daily basis.
All good with me, Rich. I love it, man.
Hey, thank you so much, Mike. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Right, take care. Mike Cameron has been our special guest here on the Boone Podcast Live. So, Bret, what do you think of this thing so far?
Man, It's getting tougher and tougher. You're getting Cole into the fifth inning.
No. I mean, our Bret Boone podcast live. Are you enjoying this?
Well, it's different. It's the maiden voyage. I'll let you know in a few innings.
Okay. It's the first time we've ever done this, folks. So we're experimenting with going. I'm enjoying this. I kind of like this. I'm learning a little bit. I never knew that whole thing about. I wondered when you get an extended at bat like that, who gets the advantage? If I've seen every one of your pitches,
you've seen every one of the pitches, but the thing is, you don't get that many. You don't get that deep, that many of a pitch at bat without seeing the pitch as well. Very, very rarely are you getting lucky. You're usually on every pitch. That's the reason you're able to extend it. So yeah, usually I found, and that's just in my experience. I've usually found that the deeper I get, usually when the hitter rarely in this game of baseball has the advantage. I think that's the one time when you can extend in a bat and go 6, 7, 8 pitches because you've seen it all. There's nothing he's going to trick you with. So usually the advantage goes to the hitter if there is such a thing, ever having an advantage.
All right, so it's Rich Herrera from the Infinity Sports Network, Bret Boone, MLB All-Star. It's the Bret Boone Podcast Live postseason edition of second screen content. So if you're watching the game on TBS, you have us on a second screen, either in your iPhone or you put us on your iPad. And you hear our commentary along with the ball game. It's been kind of fun so far. So, Bret, we're at the bottom of the fourth inning. Give me your thoughts right now of what we've seen so far.
We've seen some mistakes by Cleveland. We've seen the Yankees get into that bullpen real quick. He had the quick hook with Bybee. I was a little surprised that they took him out that early in the game to get into that bullpen. Vogt saw something that, he's with these guys every day. These guys live together for 162. And as the skipper, you're going to see something that to the naked eye, everybody wouldn't see. So obviously he had a reason for going to the bullpen so quick. Obviously it wasn't the best 2 innings, but the first inning was facilitated by an error. I don't see things going very good for Cleveland right now, unless things change. But we're only in the fourth, and we've got time. Things can change in a heartbeat. We've seen these postseason games, the heroics, the comebacks. So by no means is this game over. But to be a Yankee right now, I'm feeling pretty good.
Does it feel like we're just waiting for something to tip? Because the Yankees have had opportunities to blow this game open the way that the Mets did the other day, and weren't able to take advantage of it. And they got an error that helped them out a little bit. Just like last night, they had some walks and wild pitches that helped them plate some runs. And if you're the Cleveland Indians, you've been on the ropes, but you haven't been able to punch through. It just seems like something big is going to happen in this ballgame. We haven't got to the tipping point yet.
Yeah, I think the Indians have had. And even though they're not the Indians, they're the Guardians, they've had a couple opportunities and they've squandered them. The Yankees have had a couple opportunities and they've taken advantage of them. So the one positive thing that I see for the Guardians tonight is Naylor getting it going a little bit. He's had 2 really good at-bats, when really good at-bats for Naylor in the postseason have been hard to come by.
All right, so Verdugo up as the number 9 hitter now. And again, we're in the bottom of the fourth inning with the Yankees leading 3-0 over the Cleveland Indians. Verdugo is going to strike out, so there's 2 away here on the bottom of the fourth, and it becomes a bullpen game for the Cleveland Indians, and they do have the best bullpen, and they've had some time off. It's a bullpen with plenty of rest, Bret.
Yeah, but I think when you put Bybee out there, that's a night where you can get a little rest for that bullpen. You don't want to spend them tonight because you go down 2-0. Now they get a day off tomorrow, so you can rest then. But going into game 3, when you're probably going to be, a lot of these teams in the postseason, Tigers especially, they went to bullpen games. The Dodgers have pitched a lot of bullpen games in the postseason. I think the next game for Cleveland, as of now, it's undecided. I think they're going to have a bullpen game. So tonight, going to the bullpen early, I don't think that's what Stephen Vogt wanted to do.
No, and it's interesting for Vogt because he's a rookie manager. I remember Stephen Vogt was a reserve catcher when I worked in Tampa Bay, and I remember him coming up through the minor leagues. I didn't know that he was going to become a manager one day, but he's done a really good job. And a lot of people are thinking that's the manager of the year right there in the American League.
He did a great job, coming in for a guy like Francona, coming in, stepping in that situation. Those are big shoes. You've got a Cleveland team that's got a lot of talent on that team, and to come in your first year, go wire to wire, pretty much win that division, get to the ALCS, and you're one series away from going to the World Series in your rookie year. I'd say he's going to get some votes for manager of the year.
What about AJ Hinch? I thought he did a great job, especially down the stretch with the Tigers. And again, I'm friends with the AJ, so I always think the world of him. There's been some good jobs this year by managers in the American League.
Yeah, and we talk about the same few. How about my buddy in New York, Mets manager,
Carlos Mendoza.
His maiden voyage. He brings the Mets from they. And I talk about this a lot at the All-Star break. We kind of had our All-Star update. The Mets, to me, were dead and buried. They had no chance of making the postseason. Shows you how much I know. Next thing you know, they're sailing into the postseason. And I talk about the same teams, the Kansas City Royals. Nobody had the Royals going to the postseason. Next thing you know, they're one series away from going to the ALCS. Detroit Tigers. Detroit Tigers were sellers at the trade deadline. They gave Flaherty to the LA Dodgers. Everybody was trying to get Skubal, but nobody would give Skubal. They wouldn't give Skubal up. And next thing you know, they're in the postseason. So I think it's really interesting. I think a lot of young managers early in their career did great jobs this year.
Let's talk about your brother a little bit. The job that he did. They got off to the fast start. They cooled off a little bit. Everybody was yelling and screaming and gripping in New York. And you go on WFAN. I work at the network. But at the end of the day, they ended up with the number 1 seed.
Who, the Yankees?
Yeah.
Yankees have, you talk about their season, and I think we're a little bit skewed when it comes to the Yankees, just because of the media, just because of the scrutiny. It's day to day, it's week to week. Believe me, I got to listen to it. My brother gets fired every other week in New York. But that's the nature of the business. That's how it is in New York. That's what they expect. High expectations. As a player, I love the high expectations. But through all of that, they end up pulling away from Baltimore, separating themselves late in the season, go away, winning that division. And most importantly, and I think what's one of the most important things now in the game is not to get to the postseason. Yeah, obviously that's important. But who's the healthiest team going in the postseason? The Yankees, with the exception of Rizzo, who I'm really surprised.
I was going to ask you about that later in the show, but
yeah, that really shores up the defense. All right, inning ended. You want to give the fans an update?
Oh, you mean on the ball game?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to head to the top of the 5th inning, 3-0 Yankees on top of the Cleveland Indians. So Garrett Cole has been absolutely outstanding so far in the ball game, wiggling out over and over and over again. So that's the starter for the New York Yankees. In fact, let me give you his totals: 4 innings, giving up 4 hits, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts in the ball game. Now for the Guardians, Bybee, who was a starter, who again, I was listening to MLB Network Radio today. They were talking about that Bybee is the de facto ace of the Cleveland Guardians, and they were saying, you know what, he could go pitch for pitch with Garrett Cole tonight. He only lasted 1 1/3 innings, 5 hits, 3 runs, 2 earned, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts, and now it's going to be a bullpen game as we go through this contest today. So again, it's a bullpen game for the Cleveland Indians. The New York Yankees, they just seem like they're one big hit away from blowing this thing open, Bret.
Yeah, and watching enough of this postseason and being wrong enough. I never say never, because just when you think you know it all, and yeah, I told you that was going to happen. Wham, the game changes on a dime. So, as we get later and later, like I said, that Yankee bullpen's really come around in the postseason, with Holmes being solid in that 7th or 8th inning slot, and Weaver really doing a great job. The young closer for the New York Yankees. The later it gets, the chances start to dwindle, and that's not rocket science. Obviously, it's always been that way. But what I've seen in the postseason, from the AL, from the NL. You're not done until that ninth inning, that last out comes, because I've seen a lot of heroics in the postseason.
Hey, talk to me as we go into the top of the fifth inning of Cleveland again, trying to get something going against Garrett Cole. I used to hear this a lot, especially when I was in Tampa Bay, that, you got to get to somebody like Garrett Cole early, because the deeper he goes in the game, the stronger he gets. And I think if I'm Garrett Cole right now, I got in a little bit of a jam. I got out of it, and now I'm I got a chance to settle in a groove right now as we head to the fifth.
Yeah, and I think, always with your ace, you're going to have a little more rope than the average pitcher. Aaron's probably got a little more rope for a Garrett Cole than he is going to have for a third or fourth starter. I think Garrett's earned that. That being said, what is Garrett's pitch limit tonight? I don't know. But right now he's at 70, 71. If he can get a quick inning here, and Quan leads off with a base hit, if he can get a quick inning, he can extend it to another inning, and maybe you can push into the seventh, eighth inning, which would be ideal. That
how nice would that be, right? If you can extend him out a little bit.
If you can extend him out, rest that bullpen, and on top of getting rest tonight, you're going to have another off day to get that rest. So come game 3, hopefully, if you're a Yankee, you're 2-0, you got a rested bullpen going into game 3. I think that's just positives across the board.
Explain to me the rest thing, because this is a great opportunity for you and I just to sit and talk about the game. And I'm going to throw out all the cliches that I would use doing pre and post game shows for all those years. What's that?
Please don't. No, I'm kidding.
Well, explain to me. I mean, these are cloud questions that we use all the time, but people are like, well, okay, I get the rest maybe, but I've never really sat and explained to everybody why rest is so important for relief pitchers.
Before I get to that question, that's 3 innings in a row. Cleveland's got the first 2 hitters on. Now we got a first and second, nobody out. This will be the 3rd time Cole's been in trouble. He's got out of it 2 other times. Let's see if he can do it for the 3rd. Okay, the rest. What's your question about the rest now?
Well, okay. Well, I'll come back to that in just a sec, because they got 2 runners on. So do I start stirring right now in the bullpen? What's Aaron thinking?
I think in today's game, it's a little different than it was in years past. I think going into the game with the analytical team, the coaching staff, obviously Aaron, the pitching coach, they all have some sort of, and I don't want to call it a script. It's not a script, but they have some sort of plan. If this happens, we do this. If this happens, we do this. Now, I'm not a fly on the wall. I'm not in those meetings, but I know in the year 2024, I think teams go a lot more that route. We already have an answer for this situation if it presents itself.
All right. So there's 2 runners on, nobody out. And again, like you said, Bret, Cleveland's just kind of knocked to the door, haven't been able to break through yet. So what gives right here? What's the tipping point?
Well, if Garrett gets out of this again, I think right now guys are aware in the bullpen. They know their roles down there. They know they're going to first. That's the one thing you get together before, probably in the postseason, the regular season, you get together as a team, probably as a pitching staff and as an offense before every series. Postseason, you might have little meetings like that before every game, just so everybody in that bullpen knows their role. If certain situations arise, we're going to X. If plan B happens, we're going to Y reliever. So there's guys in the bullpen, they're well aware. I'm seeing right now I think that's Holmes getting up for the Yankees in the bullpen. He's been all over the board. They've used Holmes in the 7th, 8th. If they were to go to him this inning or next inning, 5th, 6th, I haven't seen him used there, but he's been reliable since he's been out of that closer role. He's been reliable wherever they bring him in.
All right, Ramirez
they're probably going to go matchups too.
Ramirez is going to draw a walk right here. So now the bases are loaded, nobody out in the top of the 5th inning. So once again, the Cleveland Indians knocking on the door, and they're going to have Naylor. Is it Naylor? I think Naylor's up next for Cleveland. So he's a guy who's already got a couple decent hits tonight in the ball game. So here comes a big point of the ball game right now for the New York Yankees and Garrett Cole. And yeah, you're right. They do have somebody up in the bullpen getting ready to go. And this is that point, Bret, that you and I talk a lot about, that urgency in the postseason.
Well, and I think, they're watching what we're watching. This has been 3 innings in a row. Cole's been in trouble. He's pitched his way out of it twice. But the more times you put your yourself in the position against a team the quality of the Cleveland Guardians, you're not going to get out of it every time. So I think that's why Holmes is up right now. We'll see what happens. This is a big at bat for Naylor. He's come out. I think he's hitting 1.25 going into this postseason game for the postseason, and he's had really good at bats against Cole his first 2 at bats.
All right, put me in Naylor's position. Then what am I doing here?
Oh, you learn as the more you play in the game. As a young player, the bases loaded, man, that adrenaline gets going, and you feel like you've got to do so much. As a veteran player, I looked at it differently. I looked at it as, wait a minute, the pitcher's in trouble. He's got to come to me. The pressure's on him. Learn to breathe. And this becomes, you put the pressure on the pitcher, it's a different at bat.
So again, this really is that big point once again, where Naylor's up against Cole, and he already has 2 base hits in this ball game. So Cleveland, so close, 3-0. The Yankees leading right now. Naylor's going to put the ball in play and drive in a run. So the Cleveland Indians are finally able to break through against Garrett Cole after trying. Naylor with a sacrifice fly to right field. That's going to score Kwan with a runner at third now with 1 away. So now finally they're able to put a point across, Bret.
Well, that's big right there. Naylor, you could tell by that swing. Cole got away with one there. And Naylor thinks he should have hit this ball out of the ballpark. And the look on his face after having 2 great at bats and then getting a cookie in a 2-0 count with the bases loaded, he knew he just missed it. I think Cole got away with one. He knows it. The big key there was not only did he hit the sac fly, but he got that runner from second base to third. Now we're in a similar situation. Runner on 2, less than 2. All we got to do is put the ball in play here. Sac fly would be optimal. Obviously, base hit would be, but just getting this runner home, that's huge to make it a 3-2 game.
All right, so there's 1 away. As you're watching along with this 1 away, top of the 5th inning, runners to the corner. Cole, who had been scoreless up until then, but he'd been flirting a little bit with disaster. Naylor with the sacrifice finally pushes across the first run. So now the Cleveland Indians are trying to finally break through against him in a big way, Bret.
And how about that, Ramirez? He steals a base. He stole 30 plus this year along with his 30 home run. That's what makes him such a great player. But right there, that takes the double play out of the equation for the Yankees right there. Went from first and third to second and third. Now a ball in play makes this a 3-2 game.
3-2 ball game. So now 2 runners in scoring position. And this is a really big at bat for Thomas here. And Cole wants to get out of this inning in the most desperate way. And again, he's been able to limit the damage all night long, Bret.
Yeah. I mean, if you score right here, this is a new game. This is a lot different looking at it, from that Cleveland dugout 3-0 to 3-2. You're back in this game. It's pretty much all square. But you got to get this run home. It's 3-1 until it's 3-2.
What are you seeing out of Cole right now?
He's missing with his pitches. He was sharp early, I thought. But he's missing with his pitches. The thing that these aces have, and I talk about having 2+ pitches versus 3+ pitches, is they have the ability when they don't have their best stuff to still compete. Whereas if he was an average 3rd, 4th, 5th type starter, usually when you don't have your good stuff, it's 7-0 right now. But Cole, being as great as he is, those guys are able to go out there. The Maddoxes, the Smoltzes, the Glavins, those are my 3 go-to. Cameron was talking about Hudson, Mulder, Zito. Those guys, even when they don't have their best stuff, have the ability to keep your team in the game. That's why they're aces. That's why he's got a Cy Young, because he doesn't have his best stuff tonight. But at the same time, it's a 3-1 game. He's been in trouble all night, but he has the ability and the stuff to get out of it.
So again, the Yankees holding on to that 3-1 lead in the top of the 5th inning. And for those just tuning in, finding us here, the Bret Boone Podcast Live Postseason Edition, we're doing some second screen content for you and giving you an opportunity to kind of watch the game along with Bret. If you want to get in the chat, you can ask a question as well of us tonight. And now we're going to get Thomas is going to draw the walk. Excuse me. So now bases are loaded once again at a mound visit out to try to maybe buy some time, Bret.
No, he's going to make the change as soon as he gets out there. I'll tell you what that did. By Ramirez stealing the base, that nullified the double play, but it gave Cole the ability to pitch really carefully to the next hitter. And that's why it doesn't surprise me right there in a 3-2 count with the base open because Ramirez stole. And I agree with Ramirez stealing second base because it takes you out of the double play. But Cole saw that. He had a base open. He wasn't going to give him a cookie in a 3-2 count with the runners in scoring position.
All right, so Aaron's going to go to the bullpen, bring in the relief pitchers. So Bret, make heads or tails of this for me.
We'll see. Holmes has been great. I talked about him at the top of the broadcast. How he's really kind of, and it's tough. People don't talk about this that often. We as players, we have pretty big egos, especially when you're in a closer situation. He's been a closer for the New York Yankees for the last 3 or 4 years. To be kicked out of that role and be asked to come in the 6th, 7th, 8th inning, that's a big time demotion, and you know it. But he's kind of fought through, got his stuff back together, and Holmes has really kind of got to the point where, hey, it's the postseason. I stumbled down the stretch. They made a change. The young kid Weaver's doing a great job. And instead of fighting it and kind of putting himself, hey, I'm a closer, I'm not a 7th inning guy, he's kind of embraced it, got his stuff back on. Clay Holmes is going to be a closer in the big leagues again, whether it's with the Yankees or another team. He knows that. He's got the stuff to be there. But we all have hiccups in our career where, hey, it just didn't go right. He got a little haywire. To see him right the ship, and he's going to be a huge part of that bullpen if the Yankees are going to go to the World Series and win that World Series. I think this is the right move. I think Aaron sees that right now. I think he sees that closer, Clay Holmes. Now all of a sudden he's got him available earlier in the ball game, which really essentially gives him 2 closers with the way Clay has bounced back. So it's going to be interesting how he handles this situation. Bases loaded.
A fireman, really. He's going to come in and put out this fire. And again, give me your thoughts on Garrett tonight. He's still on the hook for the 3 runners on base. Doesn't get out of the 5th inning. What did you see tonight?
Not his best, but I've seen that a little bit out of Cole. Once again, I mentioned early on in the broadcast, he finished the season real strong, about as good as you can finish. He went 9 innings, two games in a row to finish the regular season. Then he goes in the postseason, pitches game 1 against Kansas City. Kind of reminded me of this type of performance. He got into a little bit of trouble, didn't get out of it, ended up giving up 3 runs. He's been in trouble all night, and he kind of, that's how he's been going. It's been a good one, and then a not so good one for Garrett Cole. The good thing about it is the not so good ones, he's giving Clay Holmes a chance to get him out of some trouble here.
So 4 1/3 innings, 6 hits, 1 run, 4 walks, 4 strikeouts. He is responsible for the 3 men on base as Clay Holmes is going to come in here in the top of the 5th inning, bases loaded, 1 away, and Brennan is going to be at the plate. And Brennan's going to swing at the first pitch. They go to second to get the out, so 1 run pushes across, and now it's 3-2, Bret.
And I'll tell you what, Brennan should be standing at first base, patting himself on the back. That's sometimes a weak chopper to the right side is doing a job. A bullet right at somebody or for an out, that's not doing a job. Might have been a better swing, but it's all about results at this stage of the game. An 18 hopper, terrible swing off the end of the bat for the right situation, that's getting the job done.
All right, so now it's 3-2. Top of the 5th inning, 3-2, top of the 5th inning, 2 away. Jimenez in again. Clay Holmes in relief, trying to get out of this inning, coming in for Garrett Cole.
Yeah, we'll see. This is a big at bat. I'm listening to some of the other feeds, Rich, and I'm hearing, oh, this has got to be the most frustrating game of all time for Garrett Cole. And I laugh because, we tend to, in the moment right now, hey, this is his worst ever. No, it's not. It was not his best, but I've seen far worse.
All right, so Holmes is going to walk Jimenez to load the bases again, 2 away. Maybe not wanting to challenge him because he's got Austin Hedges sitting on deck.
Well, he's pitching in a situation, right? Austin Hedges, not known for his offensive prowess, but sometimes just because there's not a base open to a guy like Holmes, that's a base open for him if he wants to get to the matchup that he wants. So
Right.
he doesn't mind going bases loaded. Just because the base isn't open, it's still he's gonna
Just
pitch
2 away, right?
for a hitter like it. There's a base open if he likes the matchup sitting on deck.
Maybe get him to chase something, and if he doesn't, I'm going to go face Austin Hedges, and I already have runners in scoring position, so I just need the one out.
Right. The only time you'll see a situation where that's not the case is if you've got one of your relievers that's really struggling with his command. And if you're not worried about walking the next guy, but you'd rather face the next guy, putting him on first to load the bases is not a big deal to Clay Holmes.
So Hedges up now for the Cleveland Indians, bases loaded, 2 away, and the Yankees up 3-2 over Cleveland. Again, if you're watching us on YouTube, you want to comment, we'll take your comments. This is our beta test of the Bret Boone Podcast Live postseason edition, providing you some second string content and Bret's commentary during the ball game.
By the way, Hedges made headlines this week when he was doing an interview, and they asked him about the great Clase, their closer in Cleveland. He's going to win whatever the award is now for the best closer in the game. I think Clase has earned that right. I think he is the bona fide best with a league now that's got a lot of really good closers. I think Clase is the class. But he kind of made headlines recently, Austin Hedges, by saying Clase is the greatest closer of all time, and he's better than Mariano Rivera. So that raised some eyebrows this week.
Wow. Best closer you ever faced?
Yes. Pound for pound, if I need one guy to get 3 outs for me, Trevor Hoffman's not a bad second choice. Both of them were bad alternatives for the hitter. When we heard enter Sandman, we knew that we weren't in good shape when Mariano was coming through those bullpen doors. Equally, when Hell's Bells was playing, we knew Trevor was coming in, and 9 times out of 10, that means the San Diego Padres are winning the game.
Right, absolutely. All right, so there's an injury delay as they look at Wells behind the plate. Hedges gets back in the box. He's going to strike out swinging. So how about that? Clay Holmes comes in, limits the damage, just allows them 1 run across. It'll be credited to tonight's starter, Garrett Coles. But it's a whole new ball game, Bret, as we head to the bottom of the 5th inning. New York on top 3-2 over Cleveland.
Yeah, Holmes comes in, does what he's supposed to do. He's a ground ball pitcher. And he got the ground ball. But then the next at bat, he chooses to go to pitch to the next hitter carefully to get to Hedges, ends up punching him out, limits the damage. Still got the lead going into the dugout, going into the bottom of the 5th.
Well, there you go. So now one of those cardinal rules I've always talked about on the radio is that if you're the Cleveland Indians, you can't give any runs back. And if you're New York, I need to get one of those back just to make sure that the momentum doesn't go all the way over to the Cleveland dugout.
Well, I think the key is for that dugout, and it is, and it's an emotional roller coaster when you're in the postseason. Some games you have big scoring games. Some games seems like whatever you do, you can't push one across the board. For Cleveland to take the field, hey, there's a little life in that dugout. That away, boys. That away, we got 2 on the board. You're only 1 away. It's a lot different when you got a cold dealing 3-0 than it is when you chased them from the game. You chased them. You're into their bullpen, and it's 3-2. Believe me, there's a different energy in that Cleveland dugout right now.
All right, so let's recap everything that we've had so far. So Cleveland had Cole on the rope for a lot of this ball game. Garrett Cole's on the rope for a lot of this ball game. They're finally able to get to him in the 5th inning. And the New York Yankees, have they squared many balls up today, Bret?
Soto had a good at-bat. It's encouraging for me. Aaron Judge came up, runner on third, less than 2 outs, didn't get it done, came up a second time with the bases loaded. just got it off his barrel a little bit, but got the job done. So I'm seeing positive. You had Torres with a leadoff double to start things early in the game. I've seen some good at bats from the Yankees, not tearing the cover off it, but early on with the error that Cleveland had at shortstop, kind of put him in behind the 8 ball. Bybee was able to pitch out of it. I'm still wondering a little bit. And like I always say, we watch the Cleveland Guardians once in a while. Stephen Vogt's on the ground floor with those guys. I don't know what he saw with Bybee, why he went to the bullpen so early. I know he was in trouble a couple innings in a row, one time because of an error, but I wonder why he went to the bullpen so early. Only he knows, and I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt because he's watching this guy. He knows the personalities a lot better than I do. He knows what makes some guys tick, and maybe it's a look or a wink or a glance that says, "Hey, I ain't got it tonight."
So Eli Morgan's going to come in relief for the Cleveland Indians. So again, it turns out to be a bullpen game, Bret, really, with Bybee only going one, just didn't get out of the second inning. So we're going to have a bullpen game. So you're going to see Stephen Vogt do as much as he can. Now it's just a one-run game. So Eli Morgan has the job of trying to stop the Yankees, and he'll face Aaron Judge to kick off this inning. So you talked about it, the New York Yankees. Aaron Judge had an amazing season. MVP, more than likely in the American League, but his scuffle during the playoffs. And here he comes up in another big position where the Yankees need a hit just to get one of those runs back.
I'll tell you. And, if you're losing games right now, man, that pressure really mounts on a star like Aaron Judge. The fact is he's scuffling and they're winning games. So what does it matter? Imagine if he's not scuffling, they're really winning games. But as long as you win, you can have your star not come. Now, like I said, the farther you get into the postseason, more likely than not, they're going to need an Aaron Judge to come back and start acting like that MVP Aaron Judge. I'll tell you a quick story after.
Yeah. No, go ahead. Tell me now.
He's just off the barrel. He's just that got in on him a little bit, but not
so
bad.
Judge is going to fly out to center field to Lane Thomas. What are you seeing?
I'm not seeing anything. I'm seeing what I saw in April with Aaron, and he's just a little off. He's got a pretty unique hitting style. I think it works solely for him just because he's so big and covers so much ground. That swing that he's got really works, but when it goes south, it's so mechanical, and he has checkpoints where they get a little out of rhythm. Aaron will go into a little slump, but when he gets them right, he's the best player in baseball. He's getting closer and closer for me. To talk about postseason performances and the great players of I've seen a lot of the great ones, and what comes to mind is Barry Bonds. Until 2002,
right?
Barry Bonds had that stigma. I think of a Clayton Kershaw. Clayton Kershaw, one of the greatest pitchers to ever pitch. Postseason has not been kind to Clayton Kershaw, and he's one of the greatest of all time. A lot of guys have him in the top 10 in the history of baseball, and he hasn't had a stellar postseason. Barry Bonds was a 5-time MVP, but was noted as, when the postseason gets here, Bonds doesn't show up until 2002, where against that Angel team, I think they didn't get him out. So he really changed and flipped the script, but it wasn't until 2002, after being in the postseason 3 or 4 times, before he finally got it right. And for me, that's the great of the greats. So if he can struggle like that, so can Aaron Judge. It's happened. It's not the first time. I don't think any differently of Aaron Judge. You also have to put yourself in that position of being the star player. We have meetings before each series. Like I said, in the postseason, sometimes daily. And there's a sentiment, and it is, don't let this guy beat you. Well, everybody knows, as great as Juan Soto is, don't let Aaron Judge beat you. So they're going to pitch you a little bit differently. Soto has the protection of Judge in that lineup hitting behind him. Judge doesn't have the protection of Soto hitting behind him. So his job can be a little tougher, especially a guy that controls the zone, doesn't go out of the strike zone. It's tough when you're that good of a player and you don't have real protection behind you.
So the Yankees will go 3 up, 3 down. Judge flies out to center. Wells pops out to third, and Stanton pops out to the shortstop. So 3 up, 3 down. We head to the top of the 6th inning. Yankees leading 3-2 over the Cleveland Guardians, Bret. Did I say Indians earlier?
You've been saying it all night ever since you popped off and you said,
Is
Bret,
that what it is?
I'm glad I didn't say Indians. You said it about 4 times.
Did I
But
really? All right.
I wasn't going to say anything though. Rich.
No,
I'm
please
glad-
tell me.
I'm
I owe
glad
you
I'm
four.
glad you
I owe
figured
you
it out.
$4. Every time I say Indians, I owe you $1.
Well, you owe me 100 then.
Have I been that bad? All right. So for my friends in
No, you
Cleveland,
haven't
I
been bad.
apologize.
I'm
The
glad,
Cleveland
I'm
Guardians.
glad you realized it, and now you're going to make an adjustment.
I will make that little adjustment the way a hitter needs to make a
The
little
thing
adjustment
is-
as well.
The thing is, Rich, I do it all the time, and
It's hard.
Still, years later, it just Indians rolls off my tongue. I think we're not the only one. I think a lot of guys out there in this arena in the media still say Cleveland and catch yourself. Probably the guys covering the Guardians because they're so used to it. But outside
Right.
of that, I'll guarantee you, we're not the only ones.
When I was in Tampa Bay and we switched from Devil Rays to Rays, when we found someone in the media that would call us by the wrong name, we would playfully send out a bill for $1 and tell them they owed us $1 for the Rays Baseball Foundation. So I guess I owe the Cleveland Guardians Baseball Foundation a couple bucks in a donation after the season, Bret.
Yes.
Well, and by the way, for you, Ray Boone played for Cleveland, right?
Now we're going to talk in past tense. We're going to talk about Ray Boone. Absolutely, he played for the Cleveland Indians, and I don't know $1 for that.
No, because we're talking historically for your grandfather, right?
Right.
Did he come up with Did he come up in Cleveland?
Dad did come up with Cleveland. Won a World Series with Cleveland as a rookie.
So on
went
that
to the
team with
Detroit Tigers,
Cleveland,
had some formidable years with the Tigers. Finished with the Boston Red Sox.
who would have been on that? What year was that? The Cleveland championship, 46.
I want to call it 40. It was 47 or 48, right in
Okay.
there. It was
Okay.
his first season.
First season, and that would have been like Al Rosen was on that team.
Al Rosen, yeah, and Al Rosen was a guy that, as time went on, and everybody knows that I talk about it all the time. Grandpa and myself were very close, and Al Rosen, I talk about. He always wanted to talk about Bob Feller and Ted Williams. Al Rosen, add him to that list because Al Rosen became an executive later in life, and Gramps.
He was a general manager of the Giants.
Yeah, he always told me stories. Al Rosen, that was one of his favorite guys.
All right, so now we're going to the sixth inning. Tim Hill has been called on to pitch for the New York Yankees, the side armor against the Cleveland Guardians, Bret Guardians.
Correct. And you got Canely waiting in the bullpen. They used Hill last night. He was involved in a interference play at first base. Controversial.
Obstruction. No, obstruction.
It was obstruction. It's always going to be controversial when you call anybody, but I saw the replay. It was obvious.
It was obvious. We were sitting in a pizza place watching the game last night, and 2 Yankee fans were going crazy, screaming, yelling, cursing. So I explained it to the people we were standing with why it was obstruction, and then they kind of looked at me and put their heads down, shook their heads, and shut up.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, the home team, whoever it affects, you could hit a home run off the pole, and if it affects your team, they're going to call it the foul pole. Right?
Right.
If it affects your team in a positive way, it's definitely the fair pole.
All right, 1 runner, 1 out here in the top of the 6th inning, and again, Hill on to face the Cleveland Guardians at this point.
Yeah, I mean, and how the game's changed. Not only has bullpen become a priority for teams, but I think it's changed because of the pitching changes. We're getting so prominent, and you go back and forth, lefty, righty, lefty. I like the new rule where you got to throw to three batters, so you can't just bring in the lefty, then a righty, and then a lefty. You could stock up your bullpen with like 10 relievers,
going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
Yeah, so I think this is good, and it makes the strategy a little bit different.
Right.
It's who's that lefty coming up? I've got to weigh out. Is it more important to have the lefty up? Look at the Yankees. Perfect example. I've got a stud lefty in the pen and a stud righty in the pen. Top of the lineup's coming up, late, close. Who do I need to get them out more? Am I more worried about Juan Soto or Aaron Judge? It's a good problem to have if you're the Yankees.
Does it cost somebody a job? Does it cost that left-handed specialist a job in baseball now?
I think to a degree, because you always had that lefty that came in for that one guy. That guy
Right.
that, hey, you're here for Ken Griffey Jr. late in the game. You're here for Barry Bonds late in the game. If we've got a situation, a base hit situation, Tony Gwynn's up, you're in for him. In the modern day, a big poppy type for the Boston Red Sox that had so much success in Boston. You're for Big Poppy. Well, when you have to pitch to three hitters, maybe they're not equipped to get out the righty. So you're right. It's become now. I think it's more about velocity. It's more
Right.
about spin. They put a lot more. They put a lot more emphasis on velocity and spin.
Kwan's going to line out to third, so there's 2 away here in the top of the 6th inning. Yankees leading 3-2 over Cleveland. I remember our friend Eduardo Perez was that guy on the bench that would come in those lefty-righty situations.
Eduardo was excellent at it. He was a teammate of mine briefly in Cincinnati, but he was that specialist. He'd start one game a week, but he was the guy late to face that tough Billy Wagner at the time, Houston Astros. That's Eduardo time, and the thing I'm amazed about I was never, I never in my career was that player that was a pinch hitter. Matter of fact, the days that I had off, I couldn't stand to think that it might have to pinch hit. I hated it that much. And as tough as the game is playing every day, and it's really hard, I looked at the guys that really made a career out of being role players. And maybe you don't play for 3 or 4 days in a row, and then you're asked, you're called upon to come up usually in a big situation late in the game and face one of their best relievers. I always had a lot of respect for that, because these guys maybe, and Lenny Harris comes to mind as a guy. Recently, I saw Lenny down in Florida at an event I was at. And I told him, I said, Lenny, I think he's the career hit leader, pinch hit leader. He passed Manny Mota. And he used to tease me when he was a teammate of mine in Cincinnati, because I used to, I wanted to play every day. And Lenny would come up to me as a young player and say, Boone, come on, man, let me get a start. He always was asking me, I want to get a start. Just let me play second one day. Well, one time in Montreal, I sprained my ankle. It was a little worse than I thought. I thought I was going to play the next day. There's no way I could. So I ended up missing 4 or 5 days. So all of a sudden, Lenny Harris is playing second. And about day 3 or 4, he comes to me and he said, when's your ankle going to be better? I said, you're getting to play. And he goes, I said, give me a start. I didn't say a week. He goes, that's why I'm in the position I am, because the more I play, I'll get exposed. I need to go back in the bench and play once in a while.
That's awesome. All right. Yankees retire the side. So now we're heading to the bottom of the 6th inning. Yankees with 3-2 lead over Cleveland. Chisholm's going to be the first batter up for the New York Yankees at this point in the ball game, Brett. But I remember Eduardo, we were on a road trip to Anaheim, and they didn't have any lefties in the bullpen.
He's got 3 days off.
He's got 3 days off. So he was like, and I didn't, at that point, I didn't travel with the team all the time. So he goes, what do you do? I'm like, I'm one of the radio guys. And he goes, so what exactly do you do? I said, I do the little pregame show, a little postgame show. And he goes, that's all you do? I said, yeah. And he goes, and they paid for you to come out here? I said, yes. And he goes, oh my gosh, you get the best vacation. I thought I had the best vacation because I'm coming to Anaheim. I'm going to see my family, and I'm not going to do a darn thing because they don't have any lefties. I might go to Disneyland.
Yeah, Eduardo was great. And the players like Eduardo that made a living as an extra player, as a pinch hitter, he really had that insight. He was a student of the game. If you ever had a question about something very obscure, you'd always go to Eduardo Perez type player. He usually had an answer for it. He was constantly studying the opponent, studying pitchers, tendencies. Do they bring the glove up? Tells that the pitchers have once in a while. I was never good at that. I was always a guy that, I'd take my at bat. But Eduardo would come up to me and say, Boone, do you want to know? I've got his pitches. And I'd say, if it was obvious enough, and Eduardo could pick out the littlest thing. Some guys just have a knack for that. Eduardo would go, okay, if he comes set and he's 2 inches from his chest, that's a fastball. If he's 3 inches from his chest, that's a breaking ball. Guys like Eduardo could really see little things like that. So if it was that obscure, I would probably pass and say, Eduardo, I'll just take my chances normally. But guys like him, he was really astute, really smart. He knew when they were going to pitch out. He'd get the signs from the third base coach because he'd sit there. He didn't just, when he wasn't playing, he didn't just sit there and twiddle his thumbs. He was studying the game. He was studying opposing managers. He was studying the opposing third base coach, trying to pick their signs. Really one of those smart players, one of the smartest players I ever played with.
All right, so Sobrowski on to pitch for Cleveland here in the bottom of the 6th inning with Jazz Chisholm, the leadoff hitter. Again, the Yankees leading 3-2 over the Cleveland Indians. This is the Bret Boone Podcast Live Postseason Edition, creating some second screen content. So if you're watching on TBS, you can watch and listen to us on a second screen, your iPhone, your iPad. And we've had quite a few people stop by with us tonight as well. So again, it goes down to a bullpen game, Booney, and Chisholm needs to get something going here for the Yankees in the bottom of the 6th inning.
Yeah, and Chisholm, he's coming into this game, he's 2 for 19. I mean, so, you look at the postseason and especially midway, kind of we're at the midway point. You're going to see a lot of batting averages in the hundreds, and you're going to see a lot of guys that are hitting 400. So it's not a big enough sample size to.
Yeah, I was going to say small sample size.
Yeah, but in the postseason, I knew it as a player that got to go through to 3 or 4 postseasons. And there we go. He breaks
Chisholm
out
with a double,
with a leadoff double.
Leadoff doubles. That's exactly what the Yankees want right here.
But everything, Rich, in the postseason is put under a microscope, and that, and you feel that as a player. It's the big stage. It's the postseason. You want to do good. Some guys really thrive in those situations. Some guys put too much pressure on themselves. But it's a fun time of year, and it's definitely, you feel each and every game. You almost feel like an NFL player. They play once a week, and how important that Sunday win or loss is, where we play every day, so we just want to win series. In the postseason, you feel like an NFL player, like every game is that big because this series could be your last.
So leadoff hitters aboard now. Anthony Volpe, the shortstop, 1 for 2 on the night, comes up for the New York Yankees, Bret.
Well, this is important. Somehow get Chisholm to third base. And that could be, Volpe is a real good bunter. Ultimate is
he's going to offer one, right?
But make sure somehow, some way you get Chisholm to third. Give Rizzo, the veteran hitter, give him a chance to drive in, hit a sacrifice fly. And I keep going back to this runner on third, less than 2. I sound like a broken record. It's just so important. And I feel like in today's game, maybe I'm just not seeing it. I think we've got away from that. And the utter importance, how important it is to play the game right. When you play the game right, it's contagious. It goes to the next guy. It goes down to the 26th man on the roster, all pulling on the same end of the rope. And I'll tell you, as a player sitting in that dugout, if Volpe were to hit a ground ball to the second baseman right here, Chisholm gets to third base, you'd be amazed how much of adrenaline pumps into that dugout because of playing the game the correct way.
Productive outs, right?
Yeah.
Productive outs.
In the day and age of the analytics and the data sometimes says, well, it doesn't make sense to hit a ball the other way. I look beyond the data and I look at the psyche. I look at the mental. What does it do to a team mentally when you consistently play the game right? And for me, that steps above just the actual data.
Well, and it puts more pressure on the pitcher, so he's under more duress, and it puts him in a spot. So Volpe's going to draw a walk now. So now you've got runners at first and second, nobody out here in the bottom of the 6th inning, and the screws start to tighten a little bit for the Cleveland Indians, who are now having a bullpen game, Bret.
I'll tell you what, I've seen Rizzo bunt before. It wouldn't surprise me right here if Rizzo drops a bunt. Lefty on lefty, depending on the matchup, depends. I don't know his history with this particular left-hander. I'm sure it's not a lot, but he's joking with the catcher right now saying, I'm going to bunt. He really might bunt. I've seen him do it before. And it'll depend on the matchup. But a weak ground ball, anything, whatever gets that runner to third, that's Rizzo's thought process right now. That's what he needs to do.
Mound visit for the Cleveland Guardians. Got it right, Bret. Defensively, tell me what's going through your head at second base right now.
Well, second base, I've got my bunt coverages. I go to first on a bunt. In a day and age where the bunt isn't utilized like it was in my day, lefty on lefty right here, it's an automatic bunt.
Right.
But today's game, no, not so automatic. But I'm going to first if he drops a bunt down. And they got it. Wow.
So pickoff attempt.
They got
Jazz
it.
Chisholm picked off. Oh my gosh, Bret. Oh my gosh.
Chisholm saying
Chisholm broke.
He said he wants the replay. He said he got his hand in there before the tag.
Well, Chisholm breaks on was his secondary lead. It looked like I'm waiting for the replay here, Bret. What do you see?
I see Chisholm was trying to steal third. He got caught.
Yeah, that was a straight steal.
Chisholm saying he's safe. I don't know. I haven't seen an angle yet that I can really tell if he was safe or out.
Oh, he might be safe, Bret. He did that swim.
Yeah, but you remember this, and you hear it all the time. He was called out, so you need to have overwhelming evidence. I haven't seen an angle where I can.
I think he's onto something here.
He's out. No, he's out. I think the glove hit his shirt. I saw it ruffle. Yeah, and I think when it's undecisive and they call him out, you can't overturn this. So who knows what New York's going to say when they send it back? But me just looking at this with the call being out, I don't think this is overturnable.
Right, and they had a real good T-Mobile cam. They actually have little lipstick cameras inside the base, and as Chisholm dives back, he pulls back a little bit, and it's interesting. The second baseman doesn't kind of extend his wrist out, but I think you're right. I think he did get him just barely, Bret.
And there's not enough evidence to overturn it.
It has to be. It has to be enough evidence to overcall it. Chisholm's out there saying, no, I was safe.
That can't happen in that situation.
Okay, take me into that right there. So just break that whole thing down for people that are with us on the Bret Boone Podcast Live postseason edition. What did you see?
Well, I see Chisholm trying to get a jump and trying to steal third and change the scenario right there. If he does that, Volpe is going to follow and steal second, so now you're going to have second and third. But if you do that, you've got to be safe in this situation. You got them on the ropes. You got a one-run lead. You got first and second. You got nobody else. You've got to make them get you out. You can't give them a free out right there.
Okay, so the appeal doesn't work. So he's called out on the caught stealing as he took the big lead.
That turns a threat right now into, still you got a runner on first, one out. It's a big difference between no outs, runner on first and second.
What did he do? Did he just take off too early? Because it looked like
off too early and he got caught.
Was he too aggressive at that point?
He probably had a timing down with the left-hander on the hill, and he just switched it up on him. So he took off. He didn't go through his normal rhythm that he had probably timed, and he gets caught.
Well, and pitchers, a good pitcher will change his timing, right?
That's why I wasn't a big base stealer, because I was never really good at it. The only time I would steal when I knew 100% I got this bag. Anything, if they paid attention to me, that's when I shut it down.
Okay, so now how's this change it for Rizzo? Because before he's
definitely not going to bunt now.
Right. So again, runner at first, one away.
So now
Yankees lead 3-2.
What do I always say? It's back to being a baseball player. This is just another bet. Get a good pitch to hit and put a good swing on. There's no situation here.
And again, it's pretty remarkable that he's back in the lineup after breaking bones in his hands just a couple weeks ago, right?
Double.
You're a little ahead of me, so ball in play.
This? Another unforced error by the Cleveland Guardians in right field.
So a ball down the line for Rizzo, misplayed as it kicks off that corner, and he doesn't pick the ball up cleanly. That's going to score the runner from first. And you've got Anthony Rizzo, who we never even thought, Bret, a week ago he was going to be able to play. He comes up with one of the biggest hits in this ball game a double down the line, RBI scores. It's now 4-2 in favor of the Yankees.
Well, I bet you're going to hear with this play, Brennan goes to the ball and he goes to barehanded. And obviously he didn't need to barehand it. But it's easier. It's easy saying that from my couch. You know, I've been in that defensive position before where that's just a reaction. He goes to field it with the bare hand. Obviously, that's the wrong thing to do. But in the heat of the moment, in the big play, sometimes you just reach out with the bare hand. So it's easy to critique. At the same time, I've been in that situation, and your brain takes over, and all you're thinking is get that ball in as soon as you can. So I'm not going to really be too hard on him. That being said, it's still an unforced error that probably if he fields that cleanly, it's still a 3-2 game.
Right. So the error scores the runner from first, but that ball took kind of a crazy bounce because it hit down over there where there's some advertising, some padding, and it's not just a flush wall over there. So how do you know, Bret, that the ball's going to pop one way or the other, bounce one way or the other?
Well, Brennan wasn't in the lineup in game one. So believe me, he's in the lineup today. He probably knew he was in the lineup yesterday today. He's out early today. He knows every angle in right field. He knows he's going to be in right field. He's worked on all the angles. He was ready for anything down there. And I don't think the hop or the way the ball kicked really fooled Brennan. He had a little too much urgency. He went to bare
aggressive.
It in. Right, because he knew there was potentially going to score a run. Ends up costing him.
All right, so Verdugo's out, is up at the plate right now. Again, with the runner at second, one away, he's going to fly out to left. So now you still have a runner in scoring position, and Torres coming up to the plate, Bret.
Well, I'll tell you, and that's something like that when a teammate picks you up. It's not talked about enough. Chisholm right there makes a real bad play. You can't be caught at second base. You can't get picked off in that situation. He's probably not feeling too good about himself going in that dugout. When Rizzo steps up, gets a big base hit like that and score a run, kind of get you off the hook a little bit. You appreciate stuff like that.
Yeah, how much do you love that? Because we're not going to talk about that in the postgame show. But if he doesn't pick up that hit right there, the folks at WFN are talking about that for about 4 days, right?
Right, until the next big scandal.
There you go. All right, so they're going to go to the pen right here. It's the bottom of the sixth inning. Yankees leading 4-2. They're going to bring in a reliever to face Torres right here, Bret.
I would assume they're going to go to Gaddis, who's been as good a setup guy as there's been all year. So they're going to him a little bit early, but I think that's who I saw warming up. I'm going to wait for the official to see him. But it doesn't get any easier going through that Cleveland bullpen. So, in fact, they got a 4-2 lead. Yankees feeling pretty good about themselves right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, for those of you that are just tuning in to the Bret Boone Podcast Live postseason edition, tonight's starter for the Cleveland Indians doesn't get out of the second inning, so it does truly become a bullpen game. And if you think about it, is Pedro Avila is going to come in right now for the Cleveland Indians. This is kind of their strength. Cleveland's strength tonight in the ball game. Jim Bowden was talking about this on Sirius XM before the contest. Cleveland has a better bullpen, and better defense, and that's the two advantages they have against the New York Yankees. The defense right there lets them down and lets the Yankees score an insurance run right there. So now it comes down to the bullpen really has to I guess, tighten up and keep them in this ball game, Bret.
That's a great point. And it's not Gaddis. Okay, it's Avila.
I'm going to leave you for just 1 second, Bret. Go ahead.
You got it. Yeah. We're talking about Cleveland, and I think, what stands out about the Cleveland Indians is that bullpen and how strong they are. I think they were number one overall in baseball in 2024. But they do have a great defense as well. Yankees, not so much. And I think what the Yankees have done by having Rizzo at first, it really shores up a kind of a mediocre infield. Volpe does a really good job at short. Torres is average at best, probably below average at second. Chisholm out of position going to third base. And he's done a nice job. I think the Yankees have got, in the exchange, when they traded for Chisholm, I think they got more than they bargained for. I think he was a better player than they thought he was. He's adjusted to third base. He's done it willingly. That's not his spot. Has done a really nice job. But that being said, still at best average, probably below average. So Rizzo really shores up that defense for the Yankees. The the Cleveland Guardians definitely have a superior defense, superior bullpen. I think the Yankees win in all the other categories. And now we're going to wait for Big Rich Herrera to come back. As I'm done speaking, carrying the broadcast.
All right, here I am, Brett, back real quick.
Back, I had to carry the broadcast.
I'm telling you, that's why you're a big leaguer.
I'm not quite a play-by-play guy yet. I'm a color guy.
No,
you're doing that comes with a little more experience.
All right, so now we've got the situation where Avila comes in. He's going to face Torres, and again, runner in scoring position. And the Yankees already have one across here in the bottom of the sixth inning.
Yeah, this is baseball right here. And I'll keep going back to that. Everything, we like to make a big
big deal about everything.
Right. Every situation isn't big. A lot of it's just baseball. Get a hit, you did really well. Well, here's another. Rizzo gets caught off. Wow.
All right, Brett's just a little ahead of me. So again, runner at second base and Rizzo
got picked off.
Is a ball in the dirt, and he goes halfway. Ball in the dirt. Catcher's going to come back, and they're going to get him on a rundown. And the second base running blunder for the New York Yankees, and Rizzo's going to be out by a country mile at third. So it's a ball in the dirt. Rizzo went halfway, got caught in no man's land. Catcher faked the throw to second, came back, fired it down to the shortstop. They get him in a rundown, and Rizzo just kind of gets caught. Brett, what was he doing?
Well, he read ball in the dirt. He was going to advance to third. When he saw it didn't get away as far as he thought, and he just said, "Oh, I can't make it now." Now he's caught in no man's land. The catcher gives him a pump fake to second base. He bites on it, gets in a pickle. He's out. These aren't times. The only thing Rizzo's got going for him is he just hit the big double to score a run, so he doesn't feel quite as bad as Chisholm coming in the dugout. But I've done that before, and I know the last thing I want to do is catch eyes with my skipper after the base hit and I drove in the run. I don't feel quite as bad, but for a Chisholm, I don't know. Bottom line is it's still 4-2. They're still in a winning situation, and if you go on to win the game, you mentioned it, and you were kind of making light of the situation. The WFAN is going to be talking about this forever. If you win the game, it becomes not a thing. If you lose the game or they tie the game, then it becomes a big thing. And we're going to be talking about base running all morning Wednesday morning. As long as you win the game, the mistakes like that can be covered up because you won the game.
Are those mental or physical?
They're a combo. I think.
So let's start with Chisholm. Let's start with Chisholm right there. What happened?
Well, Chisholm probably got a rhythm with the pitcher. He was doing one thing. A lot of times, especially when you're at second base, they'll go through their checkpoints. The starting pitcher or the reliever will do the same thing. He'll come set 1001, 1002, and he'll go home. When a base stealer starts to get into the rhythm and picks up on his tendencies, he's going to take advantage of that. When he counts 1002, he's going to take off. Well, maybe this time he threw him off and he counted 1003. So he got caught. He thought he had something red. He was wrong. He gets caught. That happens once in a while.
So hold on. Let me go back to Chisholm. So was that Chisholm getting fooled, or was it the relief pitcher doing a great job of changing up his timing to fool him?
Well, I'll give you an example. Yeah, exactly. No, that's what it was. And it was a lot of times as a base runner at second base, I'll sit there and I'll see what kind of pattern is in. Sometime a reliever will look at me one time, deliver the ball home. He'll come back, he'll look at me one time, deliver it home. Maybe it's 3 or 4 pitches. He looks at me one time. I think he's a one looker. I could go as soon as he looks away. And now all of a sudden, that pitch that I decide to go on, he looks twice. That's what happened to Chisholm right there.
All right, so go back to Rizzo, because it was a ball in the dirt, and I don't think the catcher saw where it was. I don't think anybody knew where it was, including Rizzo.
Well, that's the thing right there where you make a decision. That's instinct. That's what great base runners do. You see that ball get away, you anticipate I'm going to third. Well, he was in between. He anticipated. he got out to a secondary lead. He saw it in the dirt. He's thinking, "Oh, I'm gonna go third. Oh, it's not far enough away for my speed to get to third. Now I'm caught in no man's land."
With two outs? With two outs?
Yeah, bad base running. That's all it is.
All right, so we're headed to the top of the 7th inning. First hitter up for the Cleveland Guardians. I said Guardians. You just said Indians. Somebody just told me in the chat. So you owe $1 now to Cleveland as well. Ramirez is going to ground out to third. So there's one away here in the top of the 7th inning, Bret.
Yeah. We got Naylor coming up. He's had 3 really good at-bats tonight.
The Yankees.
Rich,
yeah.
And Naylor had another really good, really nice at-bat. Chisholm makes a nice play. When you were gone, I was talking about the defense of the New York Yankees. I think Cleveland Guardians are far superior to the Yankees defensively. That being said, I think Jazz Chisholm comes over from the Marlins at the trade deadline, and I think the Yankees got more than they bargained for. Even a play like we just saw with the Naylor ground ball. For a third baseman, that's a can of corn. That's another day at work. But when you're Jazz Chisholm and you're playing center field and second base, and you get thrown to third base, that's not an easy play. And I think more times than not, Chisholm has really played well. He went over to third base, did it willingly, didn't complain. He never really played there before. And I think for everything considered, yeah, he's not a Gold Glover at third base, but he's done a pretty darn good job for it being a complete position change in the middle of a big league season.
All right, so somebody's listening to us. Why is that so tough? You're a baseball player, Bret. Just go out and play a different position.
Well, I'll tell you, you look at somebody like a shortstop. Shortstop is the best defender on the field at all times. And it's not even close. If you're a shortstop, you can play anywhere on the field. If you're a second baseman, you can play anywhere on the field except for shortstop. If you're a center fielder, you can play all 3 of the outfield positions. But and our earlier guest, Mike Cameron, I used to tease him and I said, "Cammy, you're a really good center fielder." And Cammy was a Gold Glove center fielder. I said, "But at the end of the day, you know why you're playing center field?" And he said, "Why?" And I said, "Because you're not good enough to play the infield. That's what an outfielder is." He was a shortstop probably in Little League, in Babe Ruth and all the travel ball. He was probably that shortstop and that starting pitcher. But when you get to the big league level, those guys, they get weeded out and they go to the outfield. That's what I told. And my good buddy Cameron, who, by the way, was a Gold Glove center fielder and a great defender a lot of years. But that's usually the pecking order. Everybody's a shortstop. You go from short to second base, go from second to third, and you better start to hit a little bit more. Once you can't play there, you either you got a couple options, first base or the outfield. You start in center. If you can't handle the center field position because you got to cover a lot of ground, you usually become a corner outfielder. And once again, now the pressure mounts even more. You really got to hit.
All right, so we're in the top of the 7th inning, 4-2, New York over Cleveland. And Cleveland's going to go to the bullpen New York's going to go to the bullpen here, Bret. So Aaron is going to bring in, who's he bringing in? Can you see?
Canely.
Okay, so Canley's coming in for Aaron Boone right here in the top of the 7th inning. And again, the Yankees have picked up that one extra run, making it a 4-2 ball game. Nobody on, 2 outs here in the top of the 7th, Bret.
This is Canley's 4th appearance in the playoffs. Hasn't given up a run yet. He's really famous for his changeup. I expect him to go to the changeup quite a bit. First pitch changeup right there.
Wait a minute, by the way, hold up your watch right there. Is that an Aaron Boone watch?
This is an Oris.
That's an Aaron Boone watch, right?
This is an Aaron Boone watch.
There you go. So my nephew and nieces in New England, the Hooliers, always ask, where does Uncle Aaron get his watches?
Yeah, Oris.
Yeah, because don't they have a clock at Yankee Stadium? I asked him that once. Don't they have a clock at Yankee Stadium? He goes, yeah, but look how nice my watch is.
Yeah, he likes it. He
likes it.
Now he's become a watch guy.
Is he really?
As a player, I don't remember Aaron ever being a real watch guy. I'm not a watch guy. I wear it once in a while. I'll put a nice watch on, but I don't consider myself really a watch guy. Some guys are watch guys.
Mm-hmm.
But Aaron, all of a sudden, over the years, since he's gone to the managerial side, has become a watch guy. It helps when they send you watches all the time.
Hey, listen, he's a heck of a spokesperson for him. So I actually met his watch guy at the All-Star game in Seattle last year. He had a big yellow one on the other day.
Yeah, I don't know how many he's got. I've seen a bunch different. And once again, when you're not a watch guy, you don't look at other guys' watches.
Right.
You don't really care.
So Ken Leon right now to try to get him out of the seventh, and then you kind of set up the bullpen, Bret. And we talked about Clay Holmes had been the closer, comes in as a fireman, gets out of him, and Aaron's kind of got things the way he wants it right now, right?
Well, yeah, and I don't know who they'll go to next. Canely could go to. Ian Hamilton's an option for him. Weaver, last night, he either got a 4 or a 5 out close. I think he got a 4 out close in the previous game, so he's definitely capable of doing that, especially with the off day tomorrow. I think they'll play it by ear and see how Canely goes. I'm sure they have a pitch count in mind for Canely on how many they're going to let him go, and it depends whether they can extend him for maybe even an out in the 8th inning or 2 outs and then hand it to Weaver. It's going to depend how this inning goes.
So Lane Thomas is going to walk. That's the first batter that he's going to face. So now 1 on, 2 out, top of the 7th inning. Yankees leading 4-2 over the Cleveland Guardians. Will Brennan will be up next for Cleveland.
And Canely, I've seen Canely come in and just double, triple up. I've seen him throw 4 changeups in a row.
How do you like hitting against somebody like that?
You know, in my day, it was the righties. Usually to the righty on righty wouldn't use the changeup. That'd be their slider. And now the lefty'd come in and it was all. But it's different. You know, it's different nowadays. Righty on righty changeups. And to be honest with you, as a hitter, I love the fact that righties didn't throw righties changeup. That was one less pitch I had to worry about. The only one truly kind of made it famous and a thing was Trevor Hall.
So Brennan's going to ground out to second. That's a 3rd out of the inning. So it's time to sing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game." Middle of the 7th inning, Yankees lead Cleveland 4-2. So Bret, here you go. Now we're getting down just the very end of the ball game.
Yeah, it's insurance run for the Yankees. Obviously, they're looking for something like that. But first and foremost, they got a 2-run lead. So I think Yankees right now feeling pretty good about it. Rich, I'm going to pay you that service back. I'll be back in a minute and a half. Feel free. Tell the audience something they don't know.
All right, I'll tell the audience something we don't know. Hey, by the way, if you're watching this is our beta test. We want to thank our friends at Odyssey for helping us set this up. We have just a few people watching us, so if you're watching, thanks. We really appreciate it. But this is our beta test. If it goes well tonight, we're going to try to extend this out and really promote it and tell everybody that we're planning on trying to do this for the World Series Game 1, which comes up in a couple 10 days from now. So if you're tuning in or you ran across this either live or later on YouTube, and you're going, what in the world are you two doing? This is a watch along, a watch party, if you will. The Bret Boone Podcast Live postseason edition. So we're creating some second screen content. So I know a lot of people watch the Manning cast. I actually prefer the Manning cast at times, especially the second half of Monday Night Football. Go watch Peyton and Eli. I've done a lot of these shows on Facebook Live and other platforms. So Bret and I got together and I say, hey, Bret, we sit and talk about the game. We email, we'll call each other during the commercial breaks. Let's just do a live stream of a playoff game. So today we decided to beta test it. And again, thanks to everybody at Odyssey for helping us put this together. By the way, if again, you're watching the Bret Boone Podcast, we've been doing it for about 4 years now. They're coming up on our 5th year. Bret started the podcast. I joined him shortly after, and we do it 3 times a week. If you haven't subscribed to the podcast yet, please do. You can find it on the Odyssey app. You can find it wherever you get your podcast. Some great guests that we've had and great guests that we have coming up on the show, and it's a lot of baseball. We'll mix in some football, some basketball, some hockey, We'll do some actors. We'll do some. You just never know who we're going to have come up on the podcast. But it's a Bret Boone podcast. We do it 3 times a week. And if you're a loyal Bret Boone podcast listener, we are asking you. In fact, I think I have one somewhere around here. Maybe. We have decals and autographed baseball cards we're giving away. So if you want to email us, BretBoone10@yahoo.com, BretBoone10@yahoo.com. And if you take our survey, we'll send you an autographed Bret Boone baseball card and a decal from the Bret Boone podcast. So again, those of you just that are tuning in going, what are you two doing on my YouTube channel? We're doing this beta test. Oh, by the way, that's what the Bret Boone decal looks like. So if you take our survey, we'll send you one of these Bret Boone decals with the QR code that works, Bret, and a Bret Boone autograph. So that kind of recaps where we are right now as we head into the bottom of the 7th inning, 4-2, New York over Cleveland. And now they're going to go to Gaddis and bring in Hunter Gaddis to try to keep this a 2-run ball game, Bret.
Yeah, Gaddis has been tough. Part of that elite bullpen usually gets him to Class A. Obviously, right now is just trying to hold him. So, Gaddis is another tough one. Oh, by the way, off topic.
Yes,
Rich will like this. You know how big of a fan I am in the podcast I did today with Robbie Berger.
I was going to ask you about that. Robbie Berger, Robbie Fairway.
We call him Bobby Fairway.
Bobby Fairway.
He's got a bunch of nicknames. Anyway, had a really good show with him today. That'll be out tomorrow, Wednesday. But I just got a text from him. They do this thing. They just played with Bryson DeChambeau. He's got a group of guys. There's a foursome, and they went them against Bryson.
So it's Fat Perez, right?
Fat Perez, right. And I told him that Perez was my favorite out of the bunch. I said, he's the only one that looks like he's got a good golf game. The rest of you stink. And he laughed and he goes, exactly right. He goes, Perez knows I'm coming on your show today. So I just got a text from Robbie that said, thanks again for today. And I talked to Perez, and we would love to get you out golfing with us soon. We'll get it going. So, hey, little things in life. World Series, I got to go to World Series. That was fun. If I get to go play with Fat Perez, that's on my bucket list.
Fat Perez is on your bucket list. I thought you were going to tell me. I thought you said you're going to play with DeChambeau.
No, I'm not playing with DeChambeau. I'm playing with the Brilliantly Dumb Crass. Or what's the name of his podcast? Brilliantly Dumb is where you see him on Twitter and Instagram. But it's their podcast. It's
but can we bring him on?
Bob Does Sports.
Bob Does Sports. Can we bring him on? If we do this during the World Series, do we invite him on?
Probably. He's a huge Yankee fan.
I know. That's what I was just going to say.
I don't mean geek as a guy. He's a Yankee geek. He's a
fanboy.
Yeah, he loves Aaron, loves the Yankees. He's a Jersey guy.
Right.
You grew up in Jersey, you're automatically a Yankee fan or a Met fan. He likes the Mets too. He said he really likes the Jets, but Yankees are his go-to.
How big would it be? Yankees haven't won a World Series in a while. I mean, people like that would just go crazy.
Yeah, they do. It's fun. It's fun to see. And as much as I make light of it, when I was playing, I love to see fans that kind of lose their mind because they're so wrapped up. They're so emotional. They care so much. That's what makes sports great, is having fans like that. And so when I see a true fan really get emotional about his team, part of me laughs, but part of me thinks that's why sports is so awesome.
How many dogs do you think are named Boone in the greater tri-state New York area?
I thought you were going to ask me in Seattle, and I was going to tell you, well, I've been retired for a while, so probably all those Boone dogs in Seattle, they're probably all
have gone over the Rainbow Bridge.
But yes, I think there's a fresh crop of Boone. Probably, you never know with Yankee fans, though. They might name their dog Boone, and then the next week change the name because they want Aaron to be fired. That's how the Yankee fans are. They're fickle like that.
Torres is going to lead off the bottom of the 7th inning with a base hit. So the Yankees versus Gaddis now, and this is really the heart of the Cleveland bullpen. And Stephen Vogt, who, by the way, we haven't talked about this. This is a rookie manager for the Cleveland Guardians, who took over. You mentioned earlier, took over for Terry Francona and led them to the playoffs. And this is his first time going through this, Bret.
Yeah, he's done a great job. I know Steven a little bit from his A's playing days. Always a great guy. He went to the Seattle Mariners, was on their coaching staff for a year, then got the job. He was highly thought of. A lot of times when you're a catcher in the big leagues and you have that type of managerial brain, people talk about you managing when you retire. I heard that a lot about Stephen Vogt, that he's managerial material. But what he's done in his rookie year is great. I mean, he's got these guys at the point they're one step away from going to the World Series. That's far from done at this point. But I know the type of guy he is. Players really like him. Players like playing for him.
Bottom of the seventh, 4-2. New York on top of Cleveland. Runner at first with nobody out. Soto versus Gaddis as we come to you live with the Bret Boone podcast.
Torres continues. That leadoff spot has really got him going. He's turned his entire year around by going to that leadoff spot.
So Soto's 1 for 2 on the night with a walk as well.
Yeah, Soto coming off of if it weren't for Aaron Judge, he'd probably be the MVP in the American League.
Yeah. With Aaron Judge sitting on deck right now. So this is the point where the Yankees can really break this thing open.
Watch this replay right here. Tell me what you think. I haven't seen the replay yet. The naked eye tells me he swung.
All right, you're just a smidge ahead of us. So just a smidge ahead of me. So Soto up. Did he swing? Yes, he did. Nope, they say no.
They didn't show the replay, so.
Well, that's the thing I always laugh at. People would call and scream at me on the post-game shows, Bret. Talk about check swing. I go, where's a check swing in the rule book? There is no such thing as a check swing.
Yeah, it's all up to interpretation depending on the umpire. But, the longer you're in the game, whether you're a player, manager, uniform personnel, umpire, you get a feel for it. And there's kind of a known thing. Like if you go this far, it's not
Did I attempt to make contact with the ball is what it is. So there's nothing that says, because you'll hear people talk, did the bat head go over the plate? Did he break his wrist? None of that. And I went to umpire school. None of that really matters. It's in my interpretation. Did you attempt to make contact with the ball?
Right.
So Soto's going to fly out. So again, Aaron Judge, who's been scuffling, 0 for 2 on the night, does have an RBI. He comes up to the plate with one away here in the 7th inning. And oh boy, wouldn't they love to see him get a base hit right here, Bret?
Yeah. And as much as people are going to talk about it, and they're going to talk about Judge's struggles just because of the enormity of his regular season year. But really, when you break it down, in today's game, talk about getting on base. That's so important. Judge is still on base at a 350 clip. He's had back-to-back nights where he's chipped in with a sacrifice fly. So it's not like he's just flailing and striking out every at bat. He's still contributing, whether it's walking, hitting a sac fly. I've seen a lot worse performances this far into the postseason.
Well, look at that, Bret Boone. Aaron Judge hits it high, hits it deep. I'm not going to do a John Sterling. It's gone. 2-run bomb. Aaron Judge, 6-2. The New York Yankees lead the Cleveland Guardians in the bottom of the 7th.
That's great.
How about that? That's big right there, Bret. He hit that one deep. And the crowd's going wild at Yankee Stadium.
He had a couple of bats tonight before that home run where pretty good swings, and it just didn't quite square it. One got in on him a little bit, one off the end of the bat, but the swing was there. It's just with guys that are this good, it's just a matter of time. And get him hot, man, the Yankees really become a different team.
Oh, the grin on his face, Bret. I mean, just it's a childlike grin on his face as he comes across the plate, does a little dance. and their celebration inside the Yankee bullpen. What did he hit? What did he tell me about this?
He's hit a heater away. And it's just, Judge, when his swing's on, it doesn't matter what ballpark where you're playing. He makes the ball, because he's so big, he makes ballpark small. You know, I used to tease Richie Sexton, a good friend of mine. He was so big, he had so much leverage that he made every ballpark like a little league field. And his swipe back at me was, yeah, well, you have these little short limbs, so a lot less can go wrong with your swing. So there's positives and negatives for being as big as Aaron Judge is, because he's right. Baseball hitting is such a complicated thing. It's so much about your movements, and when you got those long limbs going all over the place, a lot more can go wrong. When somebody that has shorter limbs, everything's closer to the body.
That's his 13th postseason home run for the New York Yankees. Again, 6-2, bottom of the 7th. And that's best on best. That's Gaddis. That's one of the best relievers in that power bullpen.
Yeah, Gaddis has been great all year. You know, that 7th, 8th inning role he's had. And yeah, that was tough. You know, barring something big, and as good as that Yankee bullpen's been as of late, with Weaver not missing a beat going into that closer role, hasn't given up a run. That's an uphill climb for Cleveland, not only for the series now, but to make this game a close game.
And again, just one out here on the bottom of the 7th inning is Gaddis is now facing Austin Wells, and Austin's putting on a little show here, extending this at bat, putting more pressure on Gaddis as the count goes full.
Yeah.
And Wells has been struggling at the plate as well. Wells and Judge struggled mightily at the plate so far, and Wells looks like he's getting some good swings right here and not chasing.
Well, another thing to think about too is, you know, with a 4-run lead, and I think if it's 4 runs, I think they'll go to Weaver in the 9th inning, but it also gives them the luxury of not having to use Weaver if they don't want to use him.
That is a big home run for Aaron Judge right there, and it will probably quiet some of the critics tonight in the postgame show as well, as Wells is going to line out for the second out of the inning.
And if you're a data guy and you believe in data, well, and you're a Yankee fan, you're happy right now, because it just flashed up on the board that StatCast said 97.9% chance that the Yankees will win this game. So if you put a lot into data, well, you're a happy guy right now.
We have the MLB.com ticker down at the bottom of the screen, and I think they do go through and show that, Bret. You can figure that out, and they'll have the percentages, and sometimes those things are fun to look at because they'll have you buried. There's no way you can win this ball game. And all of a sudden, boom, they go from 98% chance of winning to you just lost. So baseball's a crazy game that way.
I would say, though, that's the exception more than the rule when you get up into the 97 percentile.
All right, so Ben Lively is going to come in for Hunter Gaddis, as Stephen Vogt's going to go to the pen right now. Gaddis just didn't have it tonight, gets hit for a 2-run bomb from Aaron Judge. And Ben Lively was just added to the roster today. Alex Cobb, who started last night, left the ball game with back tightness, has been taken off of the roster due to injury. So they'll replace him with Ben Lively. That also means that Alex is not eligible to come back should the Guardians advance to the World Series. He's not going to be allowed to be re-added to the roster. So Ben Lively comes in his place for the American League Championship Series. So the Yankees, who had just been waiting and waiting and waiting, Bret, to bust out of this thing, finally do, and now it's 6-2 on the bottom of the 7th.
Is that right, though, Rich?
What's that?
No, I don't know the rule. And you just, if you leave a series with an injury, you can't return in the next series?
You can't return in the next series. That's what they said on MLB.com today.
Wow. I didn't know that.
So I've known Alex. He came up with the Tampa Bay organization. In fact, he was teammates with Stephen Vogt, I believe. and he was a long time. He was a bat boy actually at Dodger Town as a kid.
Really?
He grew up in Vero Beach, and it was funny. The first time I've ever heard the word, I think it's thoracic, that I didn't realize, Bret, you have, and if you're watching us on YouTube, since that's where we're streaming, I didn't realize you have ribs all the way up from your spine, your rib cage, but you have ribs on the side of your neck. And he had something, it was thoracic something. He actually had to have a piece of rib. I didn't realize there were tiny ribs in your neck removed from his neck, and he kept it in a little jar in his locker in the clubhouse. The little piece of rib that they had to take out of his neck, so they took him off the DL list at the time.
Yeah, I think I remember having a teammate that had, I can't remember the context, but he had something. He had some surgery, had some removed it. He put it around his chain. I don't remember. Don't quote me on it, but I do remember having a teammate that had something similar to that.
Oh, that'd be outstanding.
Lively's been a starter for these guys, been a reliever. He's gone back and forth all year. And like you said, wasn't on the roster for the second round. Now is added to the roster.
So he's going to face
6-2.
What's that?
Damage has been done 6-2.
Yeah, he'll face Giancarlo Stanton. Stanton's going to ground out for the third out of the inning, but the damage is done. The New York Yankees score 2 on the 2-run bomb for Aaron Judge. It's now 6-2 Yankees as we head to the bottom of the 7th inning, Bret.
Yeah. If you're a Yankee lover, you are feeling pretty good about now. Like I said, though, you watch those Mets this year down the stretch, and they've been down and out a lot of times, and all of a sudden they go into the 8th, and it's a game, and they end up winning the game. So unlikely, but I don't know. This postseason, you never know.
You've heard people talk about breaking out, or and a lot of the talk of the Aaron Judge, going back and forth on how he's felt and how he's looked in this postseason. A home run like that to dead center field off of one of the better relievers in Major League Baseball. What's that do for his psyche? How much does that help him just relax?
Well, that just reassures him. Like I said, for all of us as players, we're as insecure as the next guy. When things don't go bad, no matter how great of a year you had, when you go over and then you go over again and you're having a tough time, the disconnect creeps in. You start thinking about, am I ever going to get a hit again? And nobody is really, everybody's fair game when it comes to that. Am I ever going to get a hit again? Of course I'm going to, trust what you've been there, done that many times. But Aaron Judge, he's going to be the MVP. He's having a tough time. I'll guarantee you he'll come back from the back going, am I ever going to get a hit again? Because it feels like you're not. But the more experience you have, the more times you go through the adversity, the more you learn what to do in those situations, that you play it out. And yes, you will get another hit again. But it feels like when you're going through it, you're alone, you're standing naked on the field, and nobody's there to protect you. Because when you get to the batter's box, you can do everything to prep for that. Have the best batting coaches in the world, guys you see eye to eye with. But when you get in that batter's box, it's you and the pitcher, and nobody else can do it but you.
What's that feel like, though, once you get that hit, once you get that big home run? Because I noticed the look on his face. I mean, he was just grinning ear to ear, and it was almost it wasn't quite a full-blown smile, but it was more of a smirk, because you don't want to show up the other guy. But boy, it looked like he had the weight of the world lifted off his shoulders.
Yeah, and when you're a guy of his stature, and not only the player Aaron Judge, but what he's inherited. He went from Derek Jeter for 20 years, was the captain of the New York Yankees. And to pass that baton, he passed it to Judge. That's a big deal. Those are big shoes to fill. Now, Aaron's more than filled them. I think not only on the field, what he's done on the field, but what he does off the field. His professionalism, the way he handles the press, the way he handles the fans, the way he handles that captain's role has been nothing but honorable. So he knows how to handle it. He's had a great transition into that role, the leader of that team. But when push comes to shove, he knows what it's like to be the captain of the New York Yankees, to be in the Bronx, be there in the postseason with that long history. There's a lot that's on his shoulders. And the good thing for him through his struggles right now, until right then when he hit the 2-run homer, through his struggles, what are they doing? They're winning games. And when you're winning games, you can weather the storm when your big star isn't hitting. Hopefully he'll get it going. I saw it earlier in the game today. Hit the sac fly. He had 2 good swings on balls to the outfield that he didn't quite barrel up, but they were good swings. And usually you'll see that before somebody breaks out is, "Ooh, I'm close. Got it." So I think you just saw that came to fruition 3 at-bats prior to that.
Talk to me about Cleveland right now. They're down to their last 6 outs. I don't want to jinx anybody on the New York side or make anybody mad on the Cleveland side, but clock's ticking here, Bret.
Well, the clock's ticking, but it's a 7-game series. It doesn't look good if you go down 2, but this team, there's no quit in this team. There's no quit in this team. If it doesn't happen today, hey, we got to go get them game 3. All we can do is keep grinding. And that was foul, Jimenez.
But if you go down 0-2,
stats aren't on your side.
You got a 16% chance of advancing to the World Series.
Sure.
I mean, the Yankees are in the driver's seat.
Right. But don't tell a player, because as much as stats and fair-minded people, and when you're on this side of the ledger and you're not in uniform playing, yes, logic would tell you, hey, if I had my money, I'd rather have it on the team with 2 wins versus the team with 0. As a player, players don't think that way. Players don't think that way. They'll have the off day tomorrow. If this game ends with the Yankees winning the game, they'll have the off day tomorrow to kind of recoup, reassess, recharge the batteries, and get back at it in game 3. And they're not going to be thinking anything other than winning a series, not what the odds say.
But again, I want to talk about this because I'll hear broadcasters talk about this. I've said this before. We got to figure out how to get some base runners on right here. Is it just staying within yourself? Is it sure?
It's none of that. Those are all cute phrases that everybody likes to use, but it has nothing to do with it. It has going out there and having good at bats. And the thing that could be a little bit of spark for you, even if you don't come back and win this game, if you kind of just threaten and find a way to find another rally, that gives you hope for going on to the next game. Right now, it doesn't. I'll give you an example. 1999, I played on a Braves team. We were great, wire to wire, won 100 and some games. We had a tough series with the Mets, got to the World Series. We got swept by the Yankees. And as a player, I didn't feel as if that team, that group of players, that 25-man roster really felt like we were going to lose until about the 8th inning of game 4. And we were down 3-0. So that's just getting you into the mind of a player and how the player thinks. You're not down and out like everybody else sees it. Just because you're down 2-0 to a player, that's nothing. It's wipe the slate clean. Let's go out and win game 3. We got to get 1 win before we get 2 wins. That's just how the players think. All
right, so it's the top of the 8th inning, 2 away, runner on first for the Cleveland Guardians. And again, the Yankees have a 4-run lead, 6-2 in the ball game. It's the Bret Boone Podcast, a live postseason edition. As we're creating second screen content. This is our beta test. So if you watched it, love to hear what you think. So again, runner at first, 2 outs, and Cleveland trying to get something going here late in the ball game. And for Aaron Boone, your brother, the bullpen's done an outstanding job coming in, taking over for their ace, Garrett Cole.
They've really been pretty good all postseason. A lot of guys in the bullpen haven't given up a run yet. They've been pretty darn good, and they have a really good bullpen. But there was down the stretch, and I've talked about it earlier. They were a little shaky, but they've kind of righted that ship, and now they got that reliable bullpen. The Yankees are feeling good about it because that, when you look at if you break down everybody wants to go to the weaknesses. Obviously, the defense, and I don't want to call it a weakness, but it's not a strength of the New York Yankees. The bullpen down the stretch wasn't their strength, which was one time a strength. Well, the way they're starting to pitch now, they're turning it into a strength again. So Yankees got to be feeling good at this stage of the postseason. The way they played, the way everybody's performed from defense to the bullpen to offense, and it's not that they're lighting it up offensively, but they're getting the job done.
short sample size. Cleveland was supposed to have a better bullpen and have better defense, and tonight it's been the Yankees bullpen that's been really, really good, and some defensive miscues by Cleveland, against some base running blunders by the New York Yankees. But that's what puts us where we are right now, Brett.
Yeah. And now Cleveland's down to 3 outs.
So Kwan will fly out to center field, and the New York Yankees will head to the bottom of the 8th inning with the lead 6-2 over the Cleveland Guardians.
It'll be interesting to me if the Yankees don't add on with a 4-run lead, if they will go to Weaver again.
What would you do? I'll let you second guess your brother before we get started.
Well, no, once again, he's on the ground. He's with him. He knows how Weaver's feeling. He knows his workload, how his arm's feeling. With the day off, it gives you the luxury of maybe pushing a guy a little farther than you would if there wasn't a day off tomorrow. I think if there wasn't a day off tomorrow, there might be a different outcome. But I think 3-run lead, yeah, for the regular season. For me, it's the postseason. Every win is ultra important. So you might manage a little bit differently and manage a 4 or a 5-run lead like it is a 3-run lead. If you reverse it to Cleveland Guardians, if they were winning the ball game, maybe in the regular season, it's going to be 3 runs or less for Class A to enter the game. In postseason, it's a different animal. You might bring them in no matter what the score is to just make sure you finish that game. So it's going to be interesting to see. I think that the day off tomorrow really will go into thinking. I'm tending to think that he's probably going to go with Weaver in the 9th.
Again, let the kid
barring them breaking out and scoring a couple more runs.
Right. So the Yankees will have Chisholm, Volpe, and Rizzo up. Were you surprised Rizzo got back in the lineup?
I thought he was done for the postseason. I saw he was out. He broke a couple fingers late in the season.
Right.
He was off the roster for that first round.
That was on his glove hand, right?
Yeah, I had no idea he was coming back. And next thing I know, my son told me, he said, yeah, Rizzo's up next. I said, Rizzo's on the roster? He said, yeah. And he got a knock. And then tonight, I think he's got two hits.
Right.
And a big double. It's tough on lefty and lefty. He was down in the count. Big double down a right field line.
So Rizzo tonight's 2 for 3 with a double and a run scored.
Yeah.
And a base running blunder. We'll throw that in there as well. Because go ahead.
And the presence of Rizzo goes beyond the numbers. Not only does he really shore up that defense because he's really an elite defender at first base, but I think just his presence. Certain guys have a presence. I talk about Stanton having a presence in the middle of that lineup, whether he's having an unbelievable year or not. The fact that he's productive somewhat in the middle of that lineup, I think makes a difference on how those pitchers go about it, because you always have that threat that Stanton will hit a 3-run homer. You've got to respect that. I think it's similar with a Rizzo, whether he's getting a little older now. He's had some great years, but just his presence, I think, from a psychological standpoint, he means a lot, obviously defensively at first base, but just to be out on that field, I think Rizzo has a special place on that team. His personality, just being on the field, being in that lineup. I think he's been a big part of that Yankee the last 3 or 4 years and their success.
So Lively's going to come out for the bottom of the 8th inning for Stephen Vogt facing Chisholm, who had another base running blunder. I mean, think about some of these blunders the Yankees have had tonight that are not going to be mentioned because of the 2-run home run by Judge, and then the double by Rizzo makes the world a little bit easier tonight if you're the New York Yankees in that post-game interview room.
Yeah.
So again, bottom of the 8th inning, 6-2, Yankees on top of Cleveland on the Bret Boone Podcast Live Postseason Edition. Chisholm will ground out to second, so there's one away, and that'll bring up Anthony Volpe. So how good does Garrett Cole feel right now? He's in line for the win. Battled, had an okay start.
Yeah, didn't have his best stuff. and still looking like he's set up for a win. And more importantly, I think at this stage of the game, Garrett Cole could care less if he gets credit for the win, as long as the ball club gets that W tonight.
Huh?
15.
Okay.
So Volpe up at the plate taking on Lively. And we just told you in the last half inning that he was added to the roster. Alex Cobb, who started yesterday's ball game, left early, left the contest, and has been taken off the postseason roster. So Lively will take his place. Volpe's going to pick up a single on a line drive to right. So now the Yankees do have something cooking here on the bottom of the 8th inning. One away runner at first, and that'll bring up Rizzo, who had one of the biggest hits of the ball game tonight.
Another unforced error. I know it's not going to, in a 4-run ball game, that's not a big deal. That's an easy play for Brennan. I mean, that's a can of corn for a right fielder. He just drops the ball. So you're right. Cleveland coming into the series on paper, superior defensively tonight. They're having a rough night.
Well, they always say defense shows up, speed shows up every night, but I don't know if it's luck or the pressure or what you see tonight. But you've seen some uncharacteristic play tonight for the Cleveland Guardians.
Yeah, it's really been a sloppy game, and I think the off day is gonna. This isn't one of those, because these are physical errors. They're not mental. They're physical. So as a manager, it's kind of like you shake your head, like, how can you miss, how do you miss that ball? How do you make that play? That being said, I think the Guardians right now are they're welcoming this day off and this kind of chance to kind of reset and get away from the game for a minute. Because this is, not only have they not taken advantage of situations, they really played sloppy baseball defensively.
By the way,
right now, we see
Weaver's
yeah.
warming up in the bullpen. By the way, talk to me about the difference between playing at home and playing on the road. Playing at home, everybody wants tickets, everybody wants this. Which is easier, playing at home, playing on the road in the playoffs?
Playing on the road, everybody wants tickets too, Rich. Everywhere you go in the postseason, everybody's got their hand. Hey, it's amazing the people you hear from when you go to the postseason that you haven't heard from in a while, wanting tickets. But no, I always thought that was a good thing, because I made it to the postseason. I think for me, it's always a disadvantage playing on the road, because statistics say the home team always has the last time up to play. But from a relaxing situation, I loved going on the road. I knew I was going to be in a hotel. I knew I was going to be able to sleep in. I knew I was going to have my room handled for me. So yeah, there were certain advantages of being on the road.
Should I even bring this up? My wife did ask, if it turns out to be I won't jinx it. If it turns out to be a one city World Series, do you stay in a hotel or do you stay at home?
You stay at home. Absolutely.
You stay at home? Both teams stay at home?
Without a doubt. Yeah. Sleep in your own bed every night. Well, it's just like when the Mets and the Yankees play. They don't stay in a hotel. They go to the game and
do you drive?
I don't know what the current rules are. No, I think it's more of you travel as a team, so you take the bus. Now, I don't know. I don't know if
we're going to have to call George Costanza, the assistant traveling secretary of the Yankees, to find out.
Yeah, I know in spring training, certain ball clubs, it's okay if I don't take the bus. If I'm a veteran player, I have the luxury of driving to the game, driving home. Certain organizations, that was the rule. Certain organizations, they'd like you to travel as a team. But when it comes to the regular season, from an insurance standpoint, everything I don't know. I think they kind of travel as a team during the regular season.
All right, so runner at first, 6-2 Yankees on top of the Cleveland Guardians, 2 away. Verdugo at the plate versus Lively, and I just did get a message, Bret. Somebody watching the live stream tonight.
Yes,
Bret. Have you ever noticed how much Bret Boone looks like a movie star?
Ooh, wow! That goes to my Wahlberg.
You know what he said you look like?
Who?
Straight up? Mel Gibson, Lethal Weapon, with your hair and your tan right now.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, you got a little Mel Gibson in his prime. Not Mel Gibson, the old man. Mel Gibson, Lethal Weapon, superstar look.
Wow.
Because on the podcast the other day, we asked, who would play Bret Boone in the Boone family movie? You said Wahlberg.
I said Mark Wahlberg. Yeah, our stature's kind of similar. And I just think, I don't know, you kind of put me on the spot. I was trying to come up with actors that would play me. That's nothing I really ever think about who would play me in a movie. But you put me on the spot, and Wahlberg came to mind. Also, I do like Wahlberg. I like his work.
Right. Now,
I like a lot of his movies. So I just thought, we have the same build, and I thought,
Right.
why not Wahlberg? You kind of backed me off and said Wahlberg. I
Wahlberg.
said, yeah, think about it. It's a good call.
Did you tell Aaron that you said that he'd be played by Johnny Knoxville?
No, I don't think Aaron really cares right now. Aaron's worried about winning a game for the Yankees.
Well, I mean, after the season, can we ask him who would play Aaron in the movie?
I think Aaron would agree. I think because when you brought that up, I don't know for what reason. Maybe it was Matthew, my youngest brother, had told me. Aaron, everybody thinks Aaron looks like Johnny Knoxville, and I kind of looked at him at the time, and this was probably 10 years ago.
Right.
I said, I see the resemblance a little bit. So I think that was the easiest of all the questions you had for me. Aaron was the easiest. Well,
and then we said that Matty, your baby brother, the littlest of the Boones, we said that I said that he looked like Judge Reinhold. I haven't heard from Matt whether he liked that or not.
Maybe he didn't like it. That's why you haven't heard from him.
I haven't heard from him. All right, we're in the bottom of the 8th inning, two-way runner at first. Lively on top of the bump, taking on Verdugo. Alex Verdugo tonight, 1 for 3, a double, strikeout, and 1 RBI. Yankees leading 6-2 here in the bottom of the 8th inning, and they do have their closer up to try to finish off this ball game as soon as they get to the top of the 9th inning, Bret.
Yeah, I figured. It didn't surprise me that Weaver was up with the day off tomorrow. He's going to have plenty of rest, so you figure give him. It's not an actual on paper save situation, but postseason, believe me, it'll be treated like and feel like a save.
Verdugo's going to run the count full 3-2.
Well, anything to lengthen this game. We're kind of spoiled now during the regular season with the pitch clock, and
right.
We're used to these 2 hours and 37-minute games, 2 hours and 42-minute games. I was starting to get used to them. Now, all of a sudden, the postseason, you're starting to throw these 3-hour 20s at me. Makes me appreciate that they did actually add the pitch clock. The postseason with, oh, here we go. We got another. Oh, we got it. Yeah. Let's add on to this game.
So Verdugo's going to walk on a pitch clock violation, Bret.
Rich, and as much as we've talked about the pitch clock and guys that like it, guys that don't, I think the sentiment is everybody pretty much likes the new pitch clock rule. But I always thought in a postseason game, and now this postseason game, not a big deal. It's 6-2. It's a 4-run lead. The outcome is probably not going to be dictated by that pitch clock violation he just called. But would he call that in a big situation? And
you have to.
Right.
It's either a rule or it's not.
Right. But deciding, what if it was a game deciding walk that ended
fans would go crazy. Yeah, wow. Fans would go crazy.
I wouldn't want to be the umpire.
But you have to call. It's kind of like so I do a lot of football talk on the network. It's like the rule in football. I can't hit with the top of my head.
Right.
And if I do, people get mad if you get kicked out of the ball game for targeting. So either you're serious about trying to help player safety or you're not. You're either serious about the timing of the game and the pace of the game or you're not. So at that point right there, he gets called for the pitch clock violations. Now there's runners at first and second with 2 outs here in the bottom of the 8th inning. And what happens if Torres hits a ball down the line and they all rattle around, then it blows open 8-2. And Cleveland fans are going to be mad, but it's a rule is a rule, Brett.
Right. And I think if it was a closer game, if it's a 2-2 ball game right now, a 3-2, there's going to be more emphasis put on that, and shine some light on, oh, yeah, this is your new pitch clock and what it represents and what could happen in the postseason.
But here's the one thing that pitchers will say this all the time. You're a hitter, Brett. You like all the rules because they benefit offense. They benefit hitters. This is a rule that benefits hitters because it punishes pitchers that want to take their time and they want to make sure that they can set themselves and give their best performance. So if they take an extra 10 seconds, they don't care. They just want to throw the best pitch.
Right.
But unfortunately, it was getting to be ridiculous where guys were walking around and just taking their time in between pitches. Now, Torres is going to strike out, so no harm, no foul. And we're going to head to the top of the ninth inning. Yankees leading 6-2 over the Cleveland Guardians, Brett.
Yeah, and I don't think I think the pitch clock, I thought there were a lot of naysayers, myself included. But once it was put into play and we saw the results, it really didn't affect the hitter. I was worried about those hitters that were used to being able to take as long as they want to get in the box. But it really wasn't an issue. And the more players I talked to, the more current hitters I talked to, they said it's really not a big deal. And when you think about it, it moved up. The pace of play became unbelievable, became almost predictable. It was going to be 2 hours and 40 minutes. If he pitched really well, it was going to be 2 hours and 27 minutes. But I think the pitch clock did its job. And I think it's something, if you go back 40 or 50 years, that's what games were. They were 2 hours and 47 minutes. Hitters didn't mess around. They didn't readjust their batting gloves 5 times. They maybe didn't take a stroll around. I used to take a stroll around the batter's box if I wasn't happy with a particular at bat. I was taking a long time. But
why?
I think
Why were you doing it? Why?
Because it was my thing, and it was just, okay, I've got all the time in the world. Maybe it was a game that I played with the pitcher. Maybe it was a mind game that we play back and forth where he's stepping off. Oh, okay, I'm going to step out of the box. It becomes tick for tat. And the next thing you know, you're doing that. Well, they've eliminated that now with the pitch clock. So I think it definitely is good for the game, and it moves it at a more swift pace, a pace that 40 years ago you didn't need a pitch clock for. That's just what hitters did.
All right, so we're going to head to the top of the ninth inning. Luke Weaver is going to come in for the New York Yankees. Again, he is the closer now for the,
Rich,
for
I'm
the
going to
Yankees.
take a 30-second timeout.
All right, Brett's going to take a 30-second timeout. I'll remind everybody, this is the Bret Boone Podcast Live postseason edition, second screen content for you to watch and listen along on your iPhone, iPad, or wherever you are joining us today. And this is our beta test. So Bret is actually on vacation right now, but I convinced him that he should jump in here with us to do this beta test. And if all goes well, and our friends at Odyssey like it, we might come back and do this during the World Series. Time to start thinking about the player of the game, because if we were in the press box right now, Bret, somebody from the commissioner's office would be walking around handing out slips of paper going, who do you think the player of the game is tonight?
Who is the player of the game? That is a good one, because I really haven't thought about it. Judge has got to be considered. If it ends up, he gave him the comfortable lead. Hey, I got to give it to Aaron Judge right now. Aaron Judge had the sacrifice fly for his first RBI, hit the 2-run homer. He's accountable for 3 of the 6 runs. I'm going to give it to Aaron Judge for me. That's going on my slip.
Rizzo probably should be spoken about as well. A big hit early in the ball game to drive in a run as well.
But it's tough. The more I think about it, when you hit a 2-run homer, you got 3 ribbies, and the team scored 6. It's a no-brainer. It's Aaron Judge.
Yeah. I just want to throw Rizzo out there in case.
Well, you got
as well.
You need to have a. Yeah, I mean, it's good to debate everything, but the more I thought about it, Judge is the clear MVP.
All right, so if the Yankees hold on to win this ball game, and again, Cleveland's down to their final 3 outs, what's the mindset for the Yankees? How much confidence do they have for a team that's the number 1 seed in the American League, and they protect their home field advantage, and they've just got to go win 2 in Cleveland, and they're coming back for the World Series. I mean, this is in reality, Bret. You and I both pull for your brother. We'd love to see him win a World Series. I think that would be tremendous. But it's kind of a far dream. But every out gets us closer to that fruition of him getting to the World Series.
Well, I think you're a team like the Yankees, any team for this matter. You don't take anything for granted. I don't care how good you're feeling. I don't care if you've got a 2-0 lead. Yeah, you're going to sleep a little bit better than Cleveland tonight. But at the same time, you wipe the slate clean. Today's over. We got the 2-0 lead. That's great to have in our back pocket. But we play like it's 0-0 in Game 3. I think there's enough experience not only on the roster here, but in the coaching staff, guys that have been there, done that. They're not going to take this for granted just because they're up 2-0. Yeah, it's a good feeling, but at the same time, they still know there's a long way to go.
All right. On the other side, Bret, you've been down 0-2. What are you thinking about when you're down 0-2 to this New York Yankees ball club?
Well, it's not a great feeling, but I told you earlier the mindset of a player versus the mindset of somebody in the media, a fan.
Are you talking about me?
Yes. Well, I'm talking about myself now.
Okay. That's right.
You watch this game and I'm going, well, I definitely want to be in the Yankees clubhouse right now. But if I'm a player in a Cleveland uniform, yeah, I'm down 2-0. I'm down 0-2. I'm not feeling good about myself. But at the same time, come Thursday when it's Game 3, I'm playing like it's 0-0. And my mindset isn't, my back's against the wall. I got to play really good today. No, we go one game at a time. Now you get late in the game 4, and you're down 3. Well, the writing starts to get on the wall, and it's pretty clear. But until then, no, players. This doesn't affect players like it affects fans.
All right, so Weaver on the mound right now for the Yankees. Ramirez up at the plate, and again, he's been struggling, but he's going to hit a high fly ball deep into right field, and it's gone. That's his second home run. He cuts the lead in half. Now 6-3, Yankees leading the Cleveland Indians, so they're not going to go quietly into that good night. And boy, could Jose Ramirez use that. He'd been struggling coming into this ball game, and he just takes the closer for the New York Yankees deep. It's now 6-3, top of the ninth inning.
Yeah, and that's his second home run, but that's the first. I think that's the first run Weaver's given up since taking over that closer role, not just the postseason, but since he's taken over that closer.
So he hits it about 3 rows deep into right field for the Cleveland Guardians. Give me that pitch. What happened?
Well, the fact that my TV just went out and your TV was ahead of me. I haven't seen the pitch yet, Rich. I saw the pitch before, but I have not seen that pitch. I don't know what happened to my feed here.
Okay. Well, then I will get to do the play-by-play for you for the rest of this ball game. So he reached in. It was it was I think it was middle in, and he kind of reached down, dropped his hands down, and was able to take that one into right field. It was a good piece of hitting. I don't think it was a bad pitch. So that'll bring up Josh Naylor. So now I really am going to have to sit here with you, Bret, and walk you through the rest of this ball game. So Naylor's up now against Weaver. He's going to foul off the first 2 pitches, and he's in the hole 0-2. So Cleveland down to their last 2 outs, but Ramirez with a real nice piece of hitting. He just brought his hands back in and dropped the bat head down, and was able to golf that one over the right field fence. To cut the lead in half.
All right, I got my feedback. I'm back on it.
How did I do with my play-by-play?
You were outstanding.
Thank you.
We're down to 1.3% chance for Cleveland, so all the guys out there relying on the data, you're looking pretty good.
You know, Bret, I did have a play-by-play highlight once make it on the Sports Center.
Nice.
Yeah, I had a home run call that made it on the Sports Center one day, so.
Very cool. You got to start somewhere.
I've
never had a call on Sports Center.
I did have my voice on the World Series video 2008. So but I didn't get an IMDb credit for that. But that's as close as I've come to being a big shot like you.
I'll tell you that if in a game that's been played this sloppily by a Cleveland ball club, I think a veteran team, I think a team that's got a lot of experience, you tend to you want to get rid of these losses, this sloppy play as quick as you can. So maybe a younger team will dwell on the mistakes you made, the bad at-bats you've had tonight. But the veteran player will really focus on the positive things that happen. If I'm Stephen Vogt and I'm in that clubhouse, man, I've got my kind of my number two guy, Ramirez being my star, but Naylor being the number two. The at-bats he's had tonight, it's got to be encouraging going forward. That wasn't his best at-bat of the night, but I think when you see a guy that's been hitting 100 the whole postseason, hitting 30-plus homers for you in the regular season, come back and have 3 really good at-bats tonight, that's encouraging for Game 3.
So Naylor's
if there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Naylor's going to ground out to second. So now we're down to the last out of the ball game, and it'll be Weaver versus Thomas. So the Yankees 1 out away from taking a 2-0 lead over the Cleveland Guardians here in Game 2 of the American League Championship Series. But if you're Stephen Vogt, you got to feel pretty good because the 2 guys that you need to get hitterish, and I'll use a word that you probably don't like. Sorry, it's been a long day. You got Naylor with some great at-bats, and you've got Ramirez, who you needed to get going, Bret.
Yeah. These they're 2 main guys. Yeah. You always got to take the positive in this situation because it's so easy to dwell on how bad we played. We're down 0-2. I think a veteran team kind of looks at the positive and gets rid of this game. As soon as they get out of that locker room today, the veteran players, the seasoned players, they get rid of this. It's over with. Go into an off day and get ready to fight another day.
Right. And if you're Aaron Boone, you got to feel pretty good because your big guy that everybody's been talking about, they're not going to talk about him tomorrow. What's going on with Aaron Judge? What's going on with Aaron Judge because of the big fly?
I think I think that Yankee, if this finishes the way I think it's going to, I think that whole staff and that roster is going to sleep good tonight.
Lance Thomas is going to ground out to third. Chisholm throws on to Anthony Rizzo, and that's your ball game, everybody. The New York Yankees win 6-3 over the Cleveland Guardians to take Game 2 of the American League Championship Series. An off day tomorrow, and then on to Cleveland for Game 3. Yankees 2-0 lead in the best of 7. Winner goes to the World Series, Bret.
We'll do it. We'll do it 2 days from now. See how they do. We got the Dodgers Mets tomorrow night. That'll be the sole game on the docket. But look forward to watching that. Like I said, Rich, this postseason has been exciting. I really now being an ex-player, being a fan, I genuinely enjoy the postseason and this current format that they have. And I just think there's always surprises. There's always games that leave me shaking my head. I could have never seen that coming. So I'm really enjoying this postseason. Yankees, Cleveland get a day off tomorrow. We'll be back in action with the Dodgers and the Mets that are 1-1 right now. And it's going to be interesting to see if the Mets keep that magic up.
All right, let me get a couple of comments from Bret here real quick. Bret, I'll give you a second to just kind of give me 2 or 3 thoughts on this ball game, offensively, defensively, and then with the momentum going in. So let me run through the totals for everybody. For the Cleveland Guardians, they had 3 runs on 8 hits, 2 errors. For the New York Yankees, 6 runs on 11 hits, no errors. The winner is going to be Holmes. In relief, he's 2-0 with the 0.00 ERA. Did a great job coming in for Garrett Coles. The starter tonight, Bybee will take the loss for the Cleveland Guardians. He's 0-1 with a 3.60 ERA. He didn't get out of the second inning, Bret. So we've been talking about it before the ball game. The Cleveland strength was their defense and was their bullpen, but they end up with 2 errors tonight, and it becomes a bullpen game that the Yankees outlast them and double them up 6-3.
Yeah, it's just all around bad night for Cleveland. They just played real sloppy. They got a few runs late, a few bright spots with Naylor and Ramirez, but overall they want to put this one behind them as soon as they can. Bybee didn't have his best night, got yanked early, and it just wasn't in the cards tonight. Yankees kind of dominated. His Cole didn't get the win, but he survived long enough to help his team get the win. And the real positive on if you're a Yankee fan is you saw Aaron Judge not only have a couple good at bats, but he hit a 2-run homer, and that's what Aaron Judge needed from a mental standpoint. So everything positive for the Yankees, and do this as soon as they can, have the day off, and come back fresh on Thursday.
All right. Well, for Bret Boone, I'm Rich Herrera. Thanks for joining us for the Bret Boone Podcast Live. postseason edition. Thanks to our friends at Odyssey for helping us set this up. We hope you enjoyed the beta test of doing a live stream during the postseason. Bret, think we'll do it again?
I think we'll do it again.
All right. By the way, tomorrow Bret has a new podcast coming out with Bobby Fairway, so that'll drop tomorrow morning as well. Robbie Berger comes up tomorrow. All right, Bret, thanks so much. I'll talk to you soon.
You got it. Thank you. Great job.